everyone, welcome back to another episode of BRAP. So sorry I'm late this evening. I had a event that I needed to attend prior to the show that went over, and then I had to rush home and eat some dinner real quick. While I have our guest here in the live chat, they heard me chewing away, but it was a good pre-show. We were laughing, having a good time, and do me a favor, if you haven't done so, hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you are alerted when we go live. And I'm actually going to do, if you do me a solid here, I'm going to drop a link here in the live chat, let everyone know that we're live, and we have a lot to talk about. We're going to discuss, give you kind of our favorite games coming out of the 2024 Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Myself and Logic actually did the reaction video to the Xbox Showcase this past weekend on Sunday. So if you haven't watched that video, check that out as well. And we're going to discuss the Phil Spencer interview with IGN. And we're going to talk about some of the, I don't know what to call it. I guess I refer to as stupidity. But some of the complaining about the way characters look in video games. There's a lot of that coming out of this weekend's Summer Games Fest and Xbox Showcase, and we'll talk about that here shortly. But I do want to welcome the panel here. We have a great panel. We have returning guest. Actually, let me introduce this individual first. This is somebody I consider BRAP alum. He was with us pretty much from the very start back in 2015. We have returning guest, BRAP alum, Eric Jackson. What's going on, E?
Yo, what is going on? I hope it sounds all right, man. My mic died like a while ago, but since I'm not like a regular podcaster, I haven't been in an urgent sense to fix it, so I'm trying to maintain. So hopefully that sounds all right. But no, man, thank you for having me, man. Fun fact, I got with you on BRAP when you cut your first promo using the Kinect.
Yes, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah, I cut.
So for all the people that think BRAP didn't play Xbox and BRAP hates Xbox, he started this show with a Kinect. That's a little BRAP history for you.
That's a great point, and it's true. I did. If you remember, like you could record videos on the Kinect on the Xbox One, and it had custom backgrounds, almost like a green screen, and that's what I did. I cut like a promo, I think, almost like a wrestling promo. I think that first.
Yeah.
It
was
BRAP,
like, yep. Yeah, that was your first branding attempt, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
How long ago was that too, man? That was like what, 10 years ago now?
That was 9 years ago. Yeah, that's crazy.
9 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. And then you actually were with me when we had Ryan McCaffrey on for the first time, David Jaffe.
Yep.
And we did the podcast with Greg Kasavin at Supergiant Games. He came on. Yeah. So it's great to have you on, Eric.
Had some good times, man. Good times on BRAP.
Yeah, definitely.
We've seen it all, man. We've seen the landscape change. We've seen all the acquiesces, things we've said on this show we were blocked for and called everything but children of God, But hey, we hold no grudges, right, BRAP?
No, we don't. You're right. We've seen the grifters come and go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen the formula many, many times. Man.
Oh
you
yes.
Shoot to the top, a lot of nonsense. You get a lot of subs, and then you plateau, and then you switch sides, and then you come back again. We've seen it all.
Yeah, and then you throw temper tantrums when real people that contribute to the industry don't recognize you, as if you're Roman Reigns.
Hey man, if you don't feel important about yourself, nobody will.
All right. Well,
nobody will expect. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
No, it's great to have you. We also have returning guest, one of my PC brethren, who's got one of the nicest gaming setups that I've ever seen. We've got Nate with us. What's going on, Nate?
Hey, what's going on, man? Again, just glad to be here. A lot of great games showed up at this past week's events.
So many.
Yeah, so many. I was incredibly ecstatic about the gameplay they showed for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, so I was extremely excited about that. And so many more. I mean, I know we're going to talk about it, so I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, I'm happy to be here and ready to get into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we have another returning guest. We have Detective Seeds with us. Seeds, what's going on, man?
Oh, hanging out. Appreciate you having me back on. It's always fun to come and chat, talk games. Got to preview Star Wars Outlaws, so that was a good time. Got to get my hands on that. And we're talking some games for a little bit.
Now, Seeds, can you talk about Star Wars Outlaws now? Is the embargo?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah, because I that's one of the games I wanted to talk about. It's one of the games I'm interested in coming out of Summer Games Fest. So
played about an hour.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. And then we have a panel member here. We have Game Logic. Logic, how are you this evening, sir?
Hey, I guess I'm gonna have to get on my soapbox right off the bat. Are we like 5 minutes into the podcast? Even
we are. Yes.
So look, I want to point out in the chat because this happens all the time, and usually it is the Xbox fans who are in offense, right? But you guys are going after Hero Down Under, because he said something that you interpret as positive about Xbox. And you're accusing him of being an Xbot. Hero Down Under is a regular at this podcast. He's a regular on my podcast, enough to keep going. He is not an Xbot. He does not come here and pound green. In fact, he typically prefers PlayStation. So you guys are taking one singular comment and running it 12 nautical miles out to sea in the international waters and extrapolating it into something that it's not. Don't be those people. Number one, you don't need to be here if that's who you are, because this isn't that type of podcast. So literally, like, we're less than 5 minutes into the podcast. Just settle the F down, stop being a jackass, and have a discussion about games, because that's what this podcast is. It's a discussion. It's not console warring. It's not just, quite frankly, dumb shit. I'm already riled up today. Now I'm off my rocker. Like, just have a damn discussion about video games in the freaking chat. Like, stop going after people. Jesus. I'm sorry, BRAP. Go ahead and take control of your show back.
No, that's well said. Look, look, people, if you're new to the show, we have moderators. And actually, I just made Priscilla a moderator. I think I tried to. Yeah, she's a moderator now. So tell Priscilla she's a moderator. I know she didn't volunteer, but she's here.
All good. She'll enjoy it. She's always on the show. So
tell her she's ready to drop the if she wants to drop the ban hammer for bad behavior, she could drop the ban hammer, because as Logic said, like, this is first and foremost, we're here to discuss video games. Like, if you want to act like a man baby and console war, there are plenty of other shows that I could direct you to where that is the central theme of the show. That is the conversation. That's what happens in live chat. If you need like that green or purple bukkake, you're at the wrong place. This is not it. This is not that place.
Yeah, right. If you're looking for a console plastic box circle jerk, like, go somewhere else. Like, look, I constantly say this, and BRAP says it too. Like, the biggest problem with gamers is that gamers have an inability to acknowledge that it is possible for two states of existence to coexist, or two states of being to coexist. It is absolutely possible for you to be a PlayStation fan and to be super loyal to PlayStation, love Uncharted, love all their IP, and say that Xbox had a good showing. They showed plenty of games. They showed a lot of things that people are interested in. Like, you can say that Xbox had a good show and not be an Xbot and not be all lathered up with the green soap, right? Waving your terrible towels about bullshit all the time. Like, great Scott, just calm down. People can have opinions about games.
Yeah, and it's just odd to me that people hate on other people who like certain games. I mean, like, the one thing we all have in common here is we love video games, supposedly. Like this idea that you can only love one platform, or that you can't love things that are on both platforms, is just dumb. Just tired of it. But
well, wait a minute.
Yeah, the thing with that is, like, it.
You said come if you love boobs. You didn't say anything about video games.
That's how you get you, man.
What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, E.
No, I was just gonna say, it's just it basically breaks down to just simply, there's nothing that you can say about a platform that'll piss me off. If it's a platform that I prefer, to play them. There's nothing that you can say about it that pisses me off, unless I truly deep down inside don't feel the way I keep saying I feel about that platform, and that truth keeps hurting me. And I have to keep coming back at you because, I know deep down inside that, no, they're not really popping off the way I think that they are, but I'm here to defend it to the end. So what you're saying is pissing me off. If it's really popping, nothing anybody can say to you will ever piss you off. That's how I've always seen it.
Yeah.
I love the Xbox showcase, man. I thought it was great.
I love it.
If you need validation by us criticizing Xbox, just wait.
That's funny.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, let's talk video games, gentlemen. So we just had Summer Games Fest. Summer, I forget what it's called now. The Summer Games Fest 2024, Jeff Keighley show. And look, I talked a lot about it this weekend. There's a lot of games that I saw that I'm really interested in. And Cease, I'm going to go to you first, Cease, because I know we only have you for a little bit of time here. But one of the games that really, I thought the Ubisoft Forward was a great showcase. Kind of gave me those E3 vibes where they had the orchestra playing and they had, and all that, right? Felt very E3-like to me. But they showed Star Wars Outlaws. And look, I am a big Star Wars fan, so anything Star Wars in a video game, I'm probably going to, my Star Wars bias is going to kick in. But I got to say, it looked pretty good. It looks like a game that I think could be a lot of fun. Now, you've played about an hour of the game. What were your impressions of the game so far?
So I got to play. I got to play a little over an hour. It was 3 missions. And man, I was so the last, not the trailer they showed, the deep dive they did on this show, but the one right before that, I thought, man, it kind of looks like it's a little bit of a downgrade. I saw some things on there that I wasn't too sure about. And even playing in the preview, there were a couple of issues with the lighting that I talked about in my preview video. And then also the character voiceovers did not match up to what the character was saying. And I was told ahead of time that I was going to see those things and that they are on the docket for the finishing, to be polished. So I had no crashes while I was previewing the game. No game-breaking bugs, nothing. And it was going into the game, first off, I must have missed it. I didn't know you could fly the damn ships. So when I did the first mission on this Imperial depot, it has a huge element of stealth. And I tried to go into this game, into the preview, of playing it like Outlaws intended and not going in trying to be a Jedi, because for the most part, all the games that we've played, we've had those powers of the Force and a lightsaber to be a Jedi and really engage in the kind of that setting that we're used to in Star Wars. And this is completely different. And so I tried to really go in and use the elements that the game wanted me to use. And dude, it was, first off, you got Nyx. So he's like your little pal, and he can, it's very much kind of like Watch Dogs. So he can disable things, he can attack, he can distract, he can detonate. He can do all these different things in combat and out of combat. So it was very cool the way they had it set up, almost like Watch Dogs, where you can hack and do different things. Combat on it, both in the hand-to-hand combat, I thought was pretty good and pretty crisp. The shooting in third person is, in this game of what I played, very well done. It gave me especially vibes whenever you were doing some of the navigating and getting over obstacles of Uncharted. I think some other people pointed that out too. It seemed like Uncharted in certain areas. But man, when you get in the ship and you get to fly, I wasn't expecting. I was like, holy shit, I get to fly this thing. It feels like you are actually moving through space and not on a tile. So several games do it where it feels like you're kind of stuck on a tile no matter where you go. They've done a very good job with the debris and the dog fights and things like that of actually going around and fighting, and you feel like you're moving through space. The second thing that I really noticed when it comes to ships and the overall immersion was just how immersive the game is in totality. So I got to transition from space down to one of the planets, and you don't actually have control of the ship once you're doing the landing, but you actually get to go. It's essentially they hide it through a loading screen, but it keeps that immersive level that whenever you come through the clouds and you actually come down into the atmosphere and land, when you come out of the clouds, you get to see whatever city you're going to kind of come into view, and you get to see the different dynamics of the city. And then they took it a step further. So like when you go into some of the bars and some of the lounges, it was so cool how the characters in the environments and the NPCs are reacting to your presence, whether they walk past you or maybe they're sitting in a booth and they actually will turn and stare at you, take a drink, walk, have conversations in the background. It was so well done that if they nail and they finish putting the finishing touches on the polishment, that game is going to crush. Now, one might say, well, you haven't been able to experience enough of the story. And that's true. I don't know what all they're going to do with the story, but just being in the world and getting to experience what they offered us in that short preview. I saw some other guys comment as well that got hands-on, and it's almost like, man, I don't even care what, to the extent that the whole story is like just being in that world. It felt very, very Mandalorian in combination with, being able to do the dogfights in space. It's just extremely well done. They have done a great job, and I look forward to the finished product.
Was the space travel locked to third person behind the ship view?
I don't know if you can change it. I was not able to. So, and I could not get into change options or scroll around in different things. I do know that it's going to have a performance mode and it will have a quality fidelity mode. So it's going to have two options, which most Ubisoft games do now. So I don't know because I couldn't get into the settings to try to adjust anything.
Sees, will quality mode be at 60 FPS?
No. Jesus Christ. Oh God.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist, but go ahead.
Just quality and fidelity mode has always been 30 FPS. I know I don't even want to say it because it gets into console warning, but on PlayStation 5 specifically, performance mode's always been 60. Always. And PlayStation games give you two options. Quality fidelity mode's always been 30. If you don't know that, you either don't have a PlayStation or you've never been offered those options. So how that's even a topic is beyond me. I was flabbergasted.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I hear you. The one thing I noticed too with the game, you mentioned the main protagonist. I forget her name. And her companion.
Kay Vess.
What's her name?
And Nyx. Kay Vess, and then
the
one guy's Nyx, her little partner in crime.
Yeah, so you mentioned like it kind of reminded you of Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of stood out to me, like with her movement, like in stealth, it gave me Splinter Cell vibes and how Sam Fisher would move, and like some of the gadgets he would use to take people out. Like that was something that they showed in one of the missions that she's doing, where she walks into not like a house, but like a small compound of sorts, and I think there's like two enemy, and she knocks one out, and the other one like sees her, and then she like stuns him with a weapon or something, and then she like picks a lock like Sam Fisher would. So, and I think the reason that probably came to mind too is because I was hoping to see something from Ubisoft in regards to Splinter Cell, which we didn't get, but but I thought that was kind of it kind of reminded me just the movement was she's in stealth mode and kind of moving around.
I'd be surprised if we get I mean, I don't know which studio would work on it, but I know that after Star Wars Outlaws, that particular studio is going to be moving on
massive
and doing Division 3. I believe is the intention, because Division 2 is going to be, they're going to have, I think, one more big update, and then it's going to be kind of put on EOL, end of life. So it's going to kind of, stall out there. So, and several other studios, are tied up with the upcoming Assassin's Creeds. So I don't know, that it'd be interesting. I mean, I would definitely love another Sam Fisher game in Splinter Cell, but I don't know who would do it.
Yeah,
would be my main question right now. Just knowing, I have a very good relationship with Ubisoft. In full disclosure, I put it in my video. They had set me up to fly out, pay for all my accommodations, everything for Summer Game Fest. And so, because I could not go because of my treatment, they allowed me to play via online, via virtual. And so knowing what their studios are working on, I'd be highly surprised if one could even pull off doing Splinter Cell right now, and let alone doing it correctly.
Yeah. So we do know that the game, the main campaign will take about 25 to 30 hours.
Yep.
And while completionists can expect double that with Star Wars Outlaws. So definitely one of those games that I'm looking forward to. Anyone else on the panel here looking forward to Star Wars Outlaws?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my most anticipated games for sure. And definitely for one of the main reasons. I mean, we always like playing as a Jedi, but don't often get the opportunity to play as like a rogue or something like that. So I'm definitely looking forward to that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely cool to hear about like the ship combat. It's not really something that you get like in the fantastic games in like Jedi, Fallen Order and Survivor. The game has really great combat, but having like that fully open world and some stealth options, ship options, things like that. It sounds like it's going to be really good.
Yeah. Can you do upgrades? I'm sorry, Nick. Can you do upgrades on the ship? Is that
I don't know about the ship yet. I wasn't able to really dive into that, and they couldn't give me any more information on that. I know that Kay and then Nyx have upgrades that you can do, and different abilities that you can upgrade as well as skill sets. I am assuming, because of what I was able to see in a video beforehand and afterwards, that yes, you will be able to upgrade things on your ship, because there are elements of exploration in space to where you have to reduce your wanted level and you have to do things in space that I believe you're going to be able to do upgrades to at least the weapon systems. I don't know in terms of how in depth, when you're talking like Starfield, of being able to, take different elements of the ship and move it around. I don't know to that extent, but it does appear like you'll be able to upgrade certain aspects of the ship based off what they showed. We had about 30 minutes with the developer. They did a little bit more of a deep dive, even deeper than what they did at the forward, and so it did seem that we would be able to have the ability to upgrade the ship, which I'm assuming they will probably do another deep dive into it. Probably next month. I think it releases August 27th, technically in early access. And so review codes for it, I believe they're going to give us about 2 weeks. We can have 2 weeks to have the game before embargo date. So embargo dates will probably be August 25th, is my understanding. So about 2 days before, and then so we should get review codes like the 11th.
Gotcha. Okay.
Of August. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, Nate. You were going to chime in. Go ahead, man.
No problem. No, I was just saying, obviously, since the first time they showed that game, I've been heavily interested in it. Priscilla yelling me in the chat because she went crazy over that game when she seen it. So, needless to say, we're probably going to get 2 copies of that game because she's going to want to play on her rig, 4090, ultra wide, the whole 9 yards, all the bells and whistles. And we'll also probably pick it up, and I'll go for the platinum on the PS5 and vice versa. So that's going to be a huge one for us this fall, like bar none. Probably everything but the collector's edition at this point. Everything I've seen from the game and heard from the director when he was on stage sounded phenomenal. Like I said, everything he was talking about with the exploration, everything I've seen prior, like Eric was saying earlier, with the stealth elements and all the other stuff, honestly, just gives me that full on open world vibe that I'm really a fan of. And the more I see of it, and the more freedom and that I've seen them showcase, her ability to to play cards and all the other stuff that they've been showing off looks incredible. So yeah, I mean, I cannot wait to jump into this. It's a huge one for me this fall, and a guaranteed day one.
Yeah, speaking of Star Wars, by the way, there is a Star Wars marathon tomorrow, starting. I just missed the time, but on TNT, starting tomorrow. So I think they do this every
time,
year.
I believe.
What's that?
I think it was 9 a.m. Eastern time is when it starts.
Oh, is it okay? Yeah, they do this like every year. Yeah. So I try to catch some of that because as I said, I'm a big Star Wars fan. Logic, is Star Wars, and we may have talked about this, Logic, and I don't remember, so I apologize. But is this a game that made your list of games you might check out?
Yeah, it's definitely on the list. It's just like I'm not gaga for it just yet, and it's probably not as high as other Ubisoft games have been. I mean, the notion that I'm going to play it, I don't think is a surprise to anyone. I think most people know I'm an Ubisoft stan. So yeah, it's on my list. I think the outstanding questions I still have are the things that make me like really fall in love with like The Division 2 and Far Cry is a depth of systems and a wide variance in kind of like your build and your equipment. And I just don't know. And even some of the past like open world Assassin's Creed games have had depths and element of that. And there's been a notion of your build, based on what paths you go down in the skill trees. And I just don't have the sense that this game is going to have those types of things in it. And so in order to compensate for that, I also just don't know. I mean, the things I've loved about Ubisoft games have not been oriented around the notion of a license. So I just don't know how well they're going to do and how they're going to pull off Star Wars, particularly in the day and age of where we are with Star Wars now, right? And you and I were talking about lore the other day and kind of how a lot of the different movies and TV shows and stuff have landed, and the Star Wars franchise is in a very different place.
Yes.
When I play a Star Wars game, it's really not for the types of things that I really love in other video games. It's really to participate in that lore and that franchise and that nostalgia. So I'm just uncertain with how they're going to do with that. And I think the other thing that is just kind of nagging me is, as I look at the game, there's a lot of things that remind me of what are the two EA Jedi games? Jedi Survivor and I forget what Fallen Order.
Fallen Order,
yeah.
Yeah. So I just feel like I see a lot of similarities to that. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know that we will see a ton of lore when it comes to actual Star Wars in here, and I could be wrong because, like I said, I haven't really gotten to experience much of the story. It takes place in between Empire Strikes Back and
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. Thank you. So I'll be interested to see how much actual lore we do see in it, because Kay Vess is very separate from what we know. What we know Star Wars to be in terms of like the side of the Jedi. She's very much a thief and a outlaw, a scoundrel, whatever you want to call her. So I'll be surprised how much they even touch on certain Star Wars lore, because the main basis of the game is you are doing things for the Queen to free your brother, something like that, somebody close to Kay. And so that is kind of the plot setup of the story. And we got to play, like I said, 3 missions. And the last mission that we got to do, you can tell where it's leading into. I mean, you actually join forces with the Queen to start going to and doing things with the Outer Rim. So I'll be surprised how much they even touch on the lore that we know, Star Wars to have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so I'm not really going into this game looking for the lore or even part of the lore. I think they've done a really good job based off of what we've seen of creating that universe where you feel like you're in Star Wars, but not necessarily in the role that we have always been accustomed to being in as a Jedi. So I'd be interested to see how they do that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and I will say, also they did. I was skeptical about how they were going to set up Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora.
Yeah.
They did a good job with that. So, there is that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it'll be a separate case like this too. We won't see that deep dive into the lore.
yeah. So we won't see like Darth Vader. We'll probably won't have a run in with him. We will have run-ins with the Empire and the Hutts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not like you probably won't run into Luke Skywalker. Stuff like that.
I'd be okay with that though. I think just bring something on in that world just different. Kind of stay away from a lot of the things that we kind of know that they always seem to be tempted to touch on for fanfare. Because I do think at times especially in the modern world where we're getting more Star Wars than ever, I think the projects that survive the best are the ones that kind of steer clear of the Skywalkers.
Mm-hmm.
The best they can. Not so much, Vader in particular, but just kind of not trying to follow or make it about the Skywalkers per se.
Yeah. When I say touch on the lore, I don't mean like an expectation that they're going to run into characters from the movies. Like I agree. That's like the worst thing. Right. What I'm talking about is kind of the universe building and the world building of it. That's what I'm hoping they're able to sink their teeth into well.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I want to stay.
Sort of like where the animated shows go. They do a really good job of chewing on the scenery when it comes to the lore of Star Wars. Without again having to go into the familiarity of everything. All the time. So.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I want to stay with Ubisoft here. Seeds, you have about 10 more minutes left.
Yeah, I got hard out here at 10.
Yeah, so I want to stick with the Ubisoft show since we're discussing Star Wars Outlaw because that show was on Monday and they showed Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I thought it looked fantastic. I thought it looked great. What'd you think, Seeds?
Yeah, I thought it looked great. I mean, I got to do a hands-off preview of it. It was like a couple hours after I went hands-on with Star Wars. So I basically got to do everything at home that they were doing out in LA. So that they had that, I can talk about now because it's after, but they had it set up to where there was a hands-off preview of AC Shadows, and then followed by you could play Star Wars Outlaws out there. And so I mean, everyone's talking about wanting to play as the assassin, which is totally cool. But dude, I cannot wait to knock somebody up over the head with that big whatever I call it, Lucille.
It's called a Tetsubo for anyone who's actually wondering. Yeah, that is the name of the actual weapon.
Yeah, dude, when he knocks that motherfucker's head off, I was like, "Oh, give me that thing! I want to play with that."
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I saw some of the guys comparing it to like Ghosts of Tsushima. I've got a platinum in that game, and the only thing that I thought was even familiar to it was when he pulled out the katana and stuck that dude like a kebab. The rest of it, looked to be completely different. The main thing that I picked up on and that I loved that they did is you can approach the mission sets differently depending on which character you choose. You can go in and fight, with Yasuke as a, ground pounding samurai who's just going to stand there and fight you, or you can go in that the way of assassin, knocking out the lights and everything else. I thought that was so cool because I remember playing. I'm working on AC Origins Platinum now, But I remember playing Syndicate and what was the one where you had the 4 characters and it was shitty at launch. It was one of the AC games. I can't think of it. Unity. And it showed me like their pathway forward of what Ubisoft is trying to do with the Assassin's Creed franchise is absolutely insane. And I think they have went from having a very good concept with Unity and with Syndicate in the beginning stages to where what I saw in the hands-off preview of this game, it appears that they've nailed it. They've got it down to a science now, and I think that people are going to walk out of this game and go, wow, like this was awesome. I think that the map size is a little bit bigger than Origins. From my understanding, if you just kind of, blaze through the story, it's like 30 to 35 hours in the story. Collectible wise for completionist or, like I do the platinums, you might as well double it, maybe a little bit more depending on all the collectibles. There's going to be things if you want to be a completionist that you have to do with both characters. And so I thought the direction that they're taking Assassin's Creed eventually into the Infinity or whatever the hell that program's going to be called that they have, it's very impressive. And I thought that, Ubisoft there for a while, man, they had a pretty bad track record. Like they went through a period of time where people's like, screw Ubisoft, man, we're not. And they've been nailing it. They've been doing really, really good work. With Outlaws coming and AC Shadows, and those are 2 of my top games, to play. And I just thought that was the one thing I really noticed was how well they have implemented multiple characters compared to how it was in Unity and Syndicate. It was very rough. And so I will be interested to see I don't know if I should say this. There's going to be hands-on previews coming sometime next month. So I would say end of July, I think is what it is. There'll be hands-on previews like we did with Outlaws. And so I would check. Yeah, they're going to do the same type of deal. Mm-hmm. I'm not under embargo or under an NDA. I just know that it's coming. Based off of the invites and stuff like that, so I would look for that as well. We'll get a pretty good deep dive and a pretty good idea of how the game plays whenever we do that.
Yeah, I thought it looked great. I definitely didn't get the Sekiro vibes from it, like outside of it being set in feudal Japan. But yeah,
I didn't either.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The
season changed.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
One of the things that we got to see, kind of behind the scenes, I wish they would have showed it, is your choices of navigation depending on the time of the year will have to change. Because some of the locations might be covered in ice and you need to be able to get through that area and you can't. So you may have to come back to that particular area during the springtime. You may have to come back to that particular area during the summer or fall whenever it is thawed out. So I'm talking more to guys that do the completionist stuff because there are going to be locations and things that you cannot get to when the world is essentially frozen over during that wintertime. I thought that was so cool that they took that level of detail into the game to make it to where it's reflective upon the change that we go through in the world itself, in the flowers and different things going out to bloom. It was, I can't wait to get my hands on it because it looks like they freaking nailed it.
Yeah, I really like the that players are able to choose between Yusuke and I forget her name. Is it
Naoe? Naoe. Now way, yeah.
To tackle different types of like missions or scenarios. Like you can either do, full on like, swords up, running through, enemy AI, or you can go the stealth route as a shinobi, which I thought was really cool because there's a game called Tenchu, and I love those like stealth games that are set in feudal Japan, and Tenchu is one of those games that I wish would have come back that probably would never come back, but that's the one thing that I really liked about this game is that it gives you the choice to tackle those missions with either one of those characters, which is going to give you a different type of experience. So
yeah, I think they did a good job. I was originally concerned with how different they were going to be exactly, but at least if what we saw is any representation of that, they're doing an amazing job. They both felt completely different in the preview that they showed, and I mean, I'm extremely like detail oriented when it comes to that stuff, the combat and all that stuff. Like I said, again, having played every single AC day one from the PS3 original one. Like I'm really specific about that and how they implement the combat and the things that they go through, and it just looked incredible. Like I said, everything. The Tetsubo specifically, like you guys were talking about, just the level of like visceral nature of how he was just like like Seeds was saying, man, he was just knocking them out and breaking armor and just a whole like just a raging bull through the street with that thing, man. But also having the finesse with the katana, and then like you said, the shadow effect. I love that they brought that back. She kind of sees she has like an outline when she's going through the shadows, and it lets you know that you're actually hidden. Being able to, pull herself up on the ceiling to get out of the way, like all the really, really intricate stealth elements. And one thing for sure, anyone who's played Assassin's Creed, it is really, really, really annoying when you can't do this. But the way she actually drags someone who's innocent out of the way and just knocks her out.
Yeah.
But that was beautiful. Like when you're a stealth fan, like you need to be able to do stuff like that, because there's nothing more annoying than knocking someone out perfectly only for the body to get seen because you couldn't move it. So yeah, I mean they nailed everything I've seen with Assassin's Creed. All I really need to see now is a bunch of robust, armor, stealth, the trees for skills and so on and so forth. Like it looks like a world I want to be in for a very long time, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah. What about you, E?
Sorry, I was muted. No, man, you guys, you're pretty much nailing it, man. I've kind of been like up and down when it comes to Assassin's Creed, because I was like, a huge fan. Like, and they said from like day one, I was playing, AC, all the way. I kind of faded a little bit after Assassin's Creed 3. But I think coming back when they did Unity, I was kind of not feeling that because of all the initial launch errors and things like that, right? But Syndicate was fire. Like Syndicate to me felt like that last true Assassin's Creed before the new mechanics and everything kind of came in. So kind of looking at this one, I'm kind of getting like that vibe of that old school Assassin's Creed vibe. And that's like, for the first time, I'm feeling like really, really excited about it. Cause yeah, I played Origins. I didn't really rock too much with Odyssey, and I was not at all looking into Valhalla. It just looked too bloated for me. Like at the time I was just like, not interested, but no, this one's looking incredible. And the setting and everything, we're finally, getting the Japan setting we've been wanting from them forever.
Did you do Mirage?
So, no, I haven't tried Mirage yet.
Okay. I think if you were kind of turned off by the bloated area of like Valhalla or maybe even Odyssey, I really think you'll like Mirage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that on my radar to still pick up. They're not helping, man. They just keep dropping all these games on us, so it's not getting any easier.
I want you to say that again, Eric. What are they doing?
Dropping too many games, man, and the only thing we're not getting is more time.
Yeah, so that and I wanted you to say that again because it's something that Logic and I have talked about quite a bit. and you Logic, you sure remember this conversation, and you said the first 5 months of the year have been, I forget what you said, but something to the effect like, if you listen to the dialogue for the first 5 months of the year with AAA games aren't sustainable, consoles are dying. My big takeaway from this past weekend and Monday, the Ubisoft Forward showcase, is that none of that shit is true. That it's over exaggerated. Because to the point you just said, E, we're talking about 2 AAA games right now, right? Star Wars Outlaws, Assassin's Creed, Shadows, amongst the other AAA games they showed us at Summer Games Fest at the Xbox Showcase as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, it's
like, released this year.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. See, it's like to Eric's point, like we got all these games, and if you listen to those naysayers, certain podcasts and on the internet here on gaming Twitter, you probably leave with the impression that the industry's in trouble. And this whole weekend just basically shat on that whole narrative that's going out there about consoles dying, AAA games being unsustainable. I mean, we like Eric just said, we have all these games that are coming out and just not enough time. I mean, Jesus, like, and I know this isn't a AAA game, but Shin Megami Tensei is coming out in 2 days. And then we have, speaking of AAA games, we have the DLC for Elden Ring coming out next week.
Yeah, college football, 25, baby.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that shit
man.
since 2014?
Yeah.
You ain't going to have me on a podcast for 3 weeks whenever that thing comes out.
See, it's going to be like, no. I can't join.
I am
running
busy.
the option,
I am
boys.
so busy. Yeah, running options all day.
Yeah. I will say one more thing before I got to
spread
jump off,
formation.
man.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll say one more, that there was so much. We know that there was so much that was not shown this weekend from across the board. Like there are a lot of studios. I mean, we were talking about the Xbox Showcase. There were a lot of games that we know that Xbox first party is making that wasn't even shown. We know PlayStation did that state of play. They're going to have a showcase in September. That's what I've been told. Several others kind of in the industry are saying it's coming in September. There are a lot of games that have just not even been announced yet. And if you look at how many games we have to play, the rest of this year, if you can't find something to play this year, or the past 2 years, really, I don't know what you would want to play, man, because there are literally games for everybody. That whether you're JRPG, if you like the sim games, if you whatever, there's games for every. Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out next year if it hits. It's just I don't know when like he said, people are gonna find time to play, but I definitely think that narrative, like you said, of there's no games to play, that's a wrap, man. That's
really that AAA games are unsustainable. I mean, that's kind of the big thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I don't buy it.
We're seeing developers like Ubisoft continue to invest in those types of games. I mean, Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed are the recent examples for them, and there's more in the pipeline for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they announced Anno, which most console gamers are not familiar with because it hasn't really been until recently when they ported them. But we're seeing the Anno series launch on console and PC for the first time from Ubisoft ever. So they're moving that kind of stuff as well. So those more niche titles are also being spread out and being developed multi-platform from them as well. So that's like, there's so much happening right now, industry wise, that's just moving things forward and like to such a wider audience. Not Ubisoft in particular, but in the same vein of kind of like the Anno series, something that's obviously been exclusive to PC as well for a long time. Civilization 7 showed up, and that's the same thing, launching on console and PC, which is again never something that has happened. So it's like there's just so many things happening right now. There's just like, I don't know, it's looking amazing to me.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree. It looks pretty amazing. C's, I want to give you the proper send off here. I know you need to leave, but thank you for joining us. Really appreciate the time, and look forward to seeing you on Crossfire tomorrow night. But if you want to be found, let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, it's just Detective Seeds over on X, Detective Seeds on YouTube. I post platinum trophy videos, PlayStation news, and then I obviously do some previews with a lot of different studios. So appreciate you having me on, man. Much love to you, the panel. It's always awesome to hang out, chat. You're always super cool, man. And hope you guys have a good rest of the show.
Thank you, Seeds. Thank you again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Detective Seeds. Yeah. So, anything else at the Ubisoft show? They showed some Princess. I can't even talk. Prince of Persia related content. Thank you.
Yeah.
The DLC they announced. I mean, that's cool. That was free for everybody who was really enjoying the Metroidvania release version that they put out not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
That actually looked really good. I'm not a Metroidvania fan, but I thought what they showed looked really good. And again, I mean, it's just something to prolong the life of that game, and that game that was already really great and reviewed really well, and a lot of people are really loving it. Here's this, decent amount of content for free to just prolong your life and enjoyment with that game. And then of course they gave us the quick teaser, of the candle burning, showing us obviously the most popular Prince of Persia, which was the Sands of Time. Letting us know that that's in the works. So.
I was like, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this is Sands of Time," and sure enough,
yep.
I mean, that was such a like great announcement, like for me from a nostalgia perspective, because like I'm happy that they're investing in Prince of Persia again.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it was revealed that it's coming sometime in 2026.
Yeah, 2026. And then I agreed with you. Like I said, like their show definitely gave me E3 vibes. We were kind of laughing because I was watching it with the team that I usually podcast with, and we were laughing because we were like, man, they're kind of taking the Sony playbook right now. They got the orchestra, the drum guys, we're like, man, they're bringing the whole
E3
vibe,
they did have that vibe.
Yep. Yeah, I was like, okay. I see somebody was paying attention. We didn't have that awkward, dance revolution moment, that they always do or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so somebody was paying attention, man. They put on a phenomenal show. So yeah it was great all around.
They did. It was a really great show. I mean, like you mentioned, we talked about Assassin's Creed, Star Wars Outlaws. We talked about the Prince of Persia DLC. That's coming out. You mentioned Anno, which is also coming to consoles sometime next year. They actually showed off the Skybreaker for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. That's coming next month. They showed off some stuff for X Defiant Season 1, which starts next month.
They're also adding Team Deathmatch to that, apparently, for people who didn't know. I haven't played it, so I didn't know they didn't have it.
Yep, Capture the Flag as well. Yeah.
I'm a TDM player, so like that got me more interested to play it because that's how I roll when I play FPSs. So that got me intrigued.
Yeah, it's got a new rank progression system. There's 3 free new weapons. There'll be 1 new map per month. They showed off new maps called Daytona and Clubhouse. And then they're gonna have a full reveal of Season 1 coming July 1st. And they showed Skull and Bones. They give an update on Skull and Bones Season 2, Course of Havoc. And they're gonna bring the Megalodon as I guess like a foe to face. And I guess there's a new maneuverable ship called the Brig. That's a time limited boat, and they're going. Oh, I'm sorry. It's I'm sorry, I read this wrong. So they have the Megalodon to face off against, and there's a new movable ship called the Brig, and there's also time limited boat racing events as well. So there's also, I think they're adding, if I remember correctly, fleet management too. You can like manage your fleet. I've never played Skull and Bones, so it sounded like that wasn't a feature in the game before. And I believe that was something that was, it wasn't a feature. It's actually something that was requested by the community. So they talked about like taking feedback from the community and taking some of that input and applying it to Skull and Bones. So they talked about Season 3, which is titled Into Dragon's Wake. And they shared some information on new characters that players can expect to face in that upcoming season. including the flying dragon, which is a sea monster that players will face off against in a as well as a new 5v5 PvP mode. So, Logic, I remember Skull and Bones was a game that was on your radar. Did you ever get into it or kind of give it a or try it out when it came out?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. So it looks
just fell a little short of my expectations. Okay. But I mean, it is apparently, it's not off the radar as far as potentially being one of those Ubisoft games that I swear back to because, according to Ubisoft, it's getting good community response and support. So we'll just see how it goes. Like, again, the thing that I always talk about with Ubisoft is it always amazes me how they choose to stick with games and how they always reward. There doesn't seem to be a threshold for how large a community needs to be, right? It's just that the community be loyal. And one of the indicators that I mentioned on Twitter about that is I watched the Ubisoft show and I'm like, how the frack is Riders Republic still getting content?
Isn't that wild?
You said the same thing I said.
Yeah. So, in the Crew Motorfest, Ubisoft has the reputation for not necessarily being the most fiscally responsible, but whenever community gathers around a game and sticks to it, they constantly reward that community, and I guess that's why those communities stay loyal. So, that's always impressive. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily matter that a game is the most popular or that it has the most sales or blah 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 or whatever. It matters how much the publisher and the developers invest of themselves and their money and their resources in rewarding that community for whatever, regardless of whatever size they are. So, it's impressive to see. So who knows if Skull and Bones sticks with it. And I've always been amazed at how much Ubisoft has stuck with Skull and Bones, right? Through all the development hell, through all the switches and changes. There were so many people saying, that game's not coming out, that game's not coming out, that game's not coming out. And of course I participated in, I think the second alpha or maybe the third alpha. And I was like, these guys have done 3 alphas and they're continuing to do, like, that game is coming out. Like, they're not going to drop it on the floor at this point. And, lo and behold, here it is. And now it's gone into its seasonal rotation. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Yeah. And, I didn't think that game was going to make the light of day, Skull and Bones. and here we are.
No, I know you were one of the naysayers. I was telling them that game is coming out.
Yeah. I remember you saying, like, no, it's coming out. I'm like, really? But I think that the takeaway for me with Skull and Bones is that they're very much, clearly investing time, money, resources in supporting this game. And they're bringing another they talked about the additional Season 3. They talked about, adding a requested feature from the community. So there, and even the, I guess, I don't know if it was the studio head, but even the individual was talking about Skull and Bones. You could tell, like, he was genuinely excited or seemed excited about the player engagement and the plans they have for this game moving forward. So that was encouraging to see that from them. And then you mentioned, like, the Crew Motorfest. They gave a year 2 roadmap. They revealed that. And so, yeah, all in all, I thought it was a great show from Ubisoft. I was really impressed by the showing there.
Yeah, it was shorter this year than usual. I did notice that. I think I want to say it was about a 45-minute show with a 15-minute kind of after party with 2 deeper dives on 2 of their games. So that was noticeable. That tells me that they don't have as much to show in the pipeline. That was at a ready enough state, right, for their showcase. So that's interesting. But despite all of that, people often talk about the Xbox doom and gloom. Despite all the doom and gloom that there's been around Ubisoft and the discussion in the gaming community, it appears things are okay, at least for right now. So hopefully it'll keep looking up.
Yeah. So I do want to go to. I want to ask the panel here kind of what their most favorite games were coming out of Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase. Then I'll go to UE. What were some of the titles that really stood out to you at the Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase this past weekend?
You want to maybe take it one showcase at a time, I guess. But for me, I wasn't home to sit and watch the Summer Games Fest, so I just kind of went back and, skimmed through some things that I may have missed. But definitely was good to see, finally get a little bit more on Black Myth Wukong and when that's actually dropping. I know we've been waiting for that one for a very long time. Yeah, man, that was
that trailer.
Indeed.
Now, was that trailer not a really good? I mean, I was like, wow. And Logic, me and trailers. I'm like, game of the year, banger. I mean, it looked good. Go ahead, E.
Yeah, no, it looked fantastic. So I'm definitely ready for that. But the game that has my interest the most out of what was kind of shown there, and I know people felt like it wasn't a great showing. Again, I didn't watch it, so I don't know what the pacing was like. But I don't know. I kind of take these shows nowadays. Not that you can't feel pacing is off or feel bored, or whatever the case may be. What comes out of it that actually piqued my interest? Because at the end of the day, it is just about playing games. If Keeley phoned it in, people feel that way. Hey, that's on Keeley to figure that out. But Phantom Blade Zero is definitely the one. From the initial reveal to seeing more of it and hearing now that's going to be more in the vein of hack and slash with a couple of Souls type elements within it, but it's not a Souls like.
It's not a Souls.
And I think we need more. Yeah, and me, I love a good Souls game. I love a good Souls like. I have no problem with that. But I think Souls like is definitely something that's being bandied about a lot more now, and it's sort of falling into that thing of where everything had to be open world, so everything has to be like Souls like or whatever. So I've been longing for more hack and slash in the vein of a DMC or even in the vein of a Ninja Gaiden or something like that. So this one's definitely high up on my radar, but that was probably, for me, game of show for me as far as interest. So, and then, getting the Alan Wake 2 DLC, pretty much Shadow Drop. That was pretty cool too. So I'll be checking that out.
Yeah, that was actually a cool announcement, the Shadow Drop for the Alan Wake 2 stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about the showcase for you, E, the Xbox showcase?
Oh, games from the show, the Xbox. I thought, if you're asking me my opinion overall about the showcase, I thought the showcase was solid. They had in years past, and not so much just in particular the showcase, but, we've always had kind of the critique about them finding the rhythm on their shows, on sometimes they would go on too long or sometimes it'd be a little bit too much of whatever. But I think this one had a really good cadence, a lot of great announcements. Definitely good to see Doom. Even after the leak, it was still really interesting to see what it was going to be, hearing it's going to be like a medieval Doom and seeing what it's going to be look really awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But again, the game from that show that has me the most intrigued is South of Midnight. I think even back on some of the prior BRAP shows, we were getting little drip feeds of information, from Compulsion. And after they were acquired, I know we talked on BRAP, numerous times about studios that were acquired who we want to see things from. And I always kind of felt Compulsion was a studio that had good ideas, but not enough resources to really pull off what they wanted to do. And I said, okay, that could be a really good match, having, the backing resources of a Microsoft with their good ideas. And when they first started talking about what their idea for a game was before we even knew the name of it, anything like that, they said they were going to be trying something that had Southern mythology. We were like, what is Southern mythology? What is that? What is that going to be about? Right. So the more we keep seeing of this game, I'm like, this is dope. I love the setting, I love what they're playing with. I love the idea of kind of, doing that frame drop animation that kind of gives it that stop motion feel. So that for me was the game that intrigued me highly, coming out of the Xbox showcase. But that and Expedition 33 looked incredible. And I'll throw those two out for now. I want to hear what the other guys have to say. I don't want to eat up all the air, talk about all the games that intrigued me. But those two are definitely two that caught my, my attention. But there are definitely some other things. But I want to hear from, Innate and Logic as well.
Yeah, before we get to Innate Logic, let me grab the super chat from T-Rock40, the $5 super chat. Thank you, T-Rock. Says, Metal Gear Delta, hands down, best thing. I can't wait for these kids to experience true, what is that, CQC greatness? Close quarters combat greatness? Is that, I'm assuming that's what it means.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, let me go to Innate. What were some of your favorite games, Summer Games Fest, and then the Xbox Showcase?
Yeah, Summer Games Fest wasn't too crazy. I felt like the pacing was good, but they didn't have too many things that were crazy for me. But like he said, the Phantom Blade Zero actually showing the gameplay was big because a lot of people were kind of scrutinizing that game, like, oh, it can't look like that. There's no way, this and that.
Remember that? Remember that, Nate?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they were talking the most smoke. So yeah, now they definitely kicked them in their chest with that beautiful gameplay. So yeah, that was great to see. For me, the time they took on stage for a Metaphor Refantasio was great because that is one of my most anticipated games.
That's looking good too.
Fall. Yeah, that game looks incredible. I'm a huge Atlas fan. I mean, I'm playing through Persona 3 Reload pretty much as we speak, and have been for a while, enjoying that. Obviously, I'm about to platinum Persona 5 Royale for the second time for the PS5 version. So yeah, obviously I'm a really big fan of theirs, and I think they really killed it. But yeah, those are probably my two biggest highlights out of the summer showcase. I mean, and then the one other thing I would say that surprised me, of course, was obviously the Lego Horizon. You know, we've seen it, and it actually looks like a really good Lego game. Also, one thing I wanted to note about it is it's one of the first Lego games, if not the first Lego game, that actually has online co-op. Because a lot of them have couch co-op, but not online co-op.
And my kids love the couch co-op with Legos. By the way, they love it.
Exactly. So yeah, like, and it's usually that bit people get to experience, but it's like so many games have online now. It's like weird. It's weird that it doesn't. Yeah, but it looks good. You know what I mean? Like, it looks incredible. They didn't even. Somebody pointed out they didn't mix the realistic backgrounds with the Lego. Like, everything is like almost like purely Lego. So like, as I got to see it later and really kind of dig into it in 4K and stuff, like it looks really good. So I was actually intrigued by that. And like you said, it's for the kids. They're gonna reach a whole new audience, on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm sure my niece will be really interested in it as well. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's also proof that PlayStation's going third party apparently. But yeah, no, that
yeah, that's what I heard. I wrote a dissertation on that in my group chat.
Did you mention the Xbox Showcase at 8? I'm sorry, I'm old and off.
No, not yet. But
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that one, obviously, my game of the show happened to show up in that one, which Eric mentioned as well. Expedition 33, bar none. Obviously, I am a turn-based super fan. They are clearly fans. They are clearly paying attention. It looked phenomenal. They are upping the ante for turn-based, and really giving us that high fidelity graphical looking showpiece for a turn-based game. And I'm loving everything I've seen of it so far, and including all the stuff that the dev team is talking about. I went on ahead and followed them on Twitter, and they've been putting out a lot of really good info about the game, and I'm excited to see a lot more of that. Also, way to go on a first reveal being gameplay. That's the way we love to see it. Yeah, that was great. So the team, I got to see the team reaction to that, and they were ecstatic and clapping it up, and they deserve every bit of that, man. They set the internet on fire with that trailer, and got a lot of people talking, about turn-based that normally don't. So yeah, I'm excited for that myself, and for a lot of people to see that. I liked what we saw of Fable. Fable looked really good. Fable's always been one of the very few things. The
protagonist is ugly.
That's what they tell me, man. I also thought her model actually looked better in this one, for the record. Like, I felt like they really improved. Like, I can tell the time they've spent on it.
Yeah.
The character model and stuff looked a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just the overall thing, we got to see what at least looks like, a lot more gameplay rather than the one before where they, if you blink, you missed it.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Frog,
yeah. So yeah, the whole frog thing, and then when she was fighting a little bit in some of the other scenes, like I said, that was just a really great showing to me. So that was big. I actually liked Starfield, unlike what a lot of people think. PlayStation fans don't, but I liked Starfield just fine, and I have the $100 edition.
In this DLC coming up?
So,
Does she have a personality now?
Honestly, even if she was though, I can't. No, but even if she was though, I can't take her with me because she's like a snob. So
she is
every
snobby,
time I do something, every time I do something, it's like she doesn't like that, and I'm like, look, you just told me to do what it takes, and now every time I do what it takes, she's like mad, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna leave you back home. Yeah, yeah. So I gotta run with the more rugged chick from I believe it's Varun. She's from Varun or whatever.
Did she wear like leather or something? That I forget her name.
Yeah, she has like leather.
Is that Andresia?
Yes.
Yes.
Both me and Priscilla went with her.
I started trying to figure out, and I played like 44 hours of Starfield, and I didn't mainline the campaign, but like where I dropped off, I had just picked up Andresia, and I was like, oh, we about to cheat.
Sarah who?
Exactly. Yeah, she's awesome. So seeing the Shattered Space DLC coming and all the changes they've made, and like I said, they dropped some patches and some other stuff that they've talked about. Like I'm all for it, man. They dropped the creation patch for everybody. Yeah, for everybody to be able to really go crazy and the mods to really start digging in. I usually don't start modding my games till the game's been out for at least a year because they update the game too much and it's just going to keep repeatedly breaking your mods. So by the time Shattered Space drops and the mods really have some time to dig in, that's going to be a world of fun to get into. The only thing that disappointed me that I didn't see announced, but it might be later, is that if you played the game and you ever took any time to build your own ship, it's really disappointing that there's no way to save that for like New Game Plus playthroughs or subsequent playthroughs, because it can take quite a while to design like a pretty dope ship. I took about 2.5 hours and designed like, honestly, it's unstoppable. But it was an incredible ship. And again, outside of that playthrough, if I go to New Game Plus or whatever, I can't carry that. Like I have to just rebuild it from like my mind. So hopefully that's something they get together. And then like somebody mentioned, just real quickly, obviously there was so much shown.
A lot shown.
The Metal Gear trailer looked phenomenal. The collector's edition sold out immediately after the show. If anybody wanted it, you're too late. I don't know how many Konami put out there, but yeah, those are gone. That thing looked really, really great. It's going to be dope for a lot of people to get into the franchise for the first time. I don't think Priscilla has played it, so I'm really interested to see her get into it. She's a fan of like, kind of like the jungle vibe and like survival and stuff. So it's going to be a great time to get to see her first reactions to playing MGS3. So that's going to be great. And then I personally was a fan of the Dragon Age trailer that showed, largely because even though a lot of people weren't really feeling it at first, I don't know how many people have played Dragon Age or where they stopped or whatever, but Dragon Age's characters have always been like a character. So like that part of the trailer didn't throw me off. And the parts that were in between where you could see the gameplay, I knew the game looked phenomenal. And even though this was shown later, now you can see that a lot of people have retracted what they thought after they've seen the actual gameplay, extended gameplay that was released later. But yeah, that game, again, that is looking great. And that's yet again another game for us to look forward to as we keep saying there's so much coming.
Another AAA game, again, a game that is releasing this fall. So it's like, it's like that narrative again. It's like, no, like, we're still seeing these investments in those types of games, but
exactly.
Yeah. And Nate, real quick, I do want to go to Logic quick before we move on to the next topic. Logic, what stood out for you in both the Summer Games Fest and then the showcase?
Yeah, I stepped away for a minute, so I apologize if I mess up like what format or shtick we were going with.
Yeah,
but,
so we're going with Summer Games Fest first, and then moving on to the showcase. Just just pick like a handful of games that they made like your top.
Well, I've got too many. So, Summer Game Fest, the first show, Sid Meier's Civilization 7, just because I've been playing Civ since the 90s.
And that's coming to consoles too, right? Logic. That's I think that was the.
I wouldn't know because I don't pay attention to that. Civ, you play Civ 7, you play Civilization on a PC.
I don't. Yeah.
So that's cool. Mecha Break kind of caught my eye, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how that turns out. First Ascendant getting a release date, that was interesting. I mentioned on E2KG, I'm interested in Valorant coming to consoles, just as an effort to try that game out at the same time that another whole community is onboarding without having to deal with all the toxicity that there is on PC. Monster Hunter Wilds, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 is something that I'm really looking forward to. And I also really liked the Delta Force Hawk Ops, which I believe is a resurgence of the old Nova Logic license. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. Kind of in the same vein as what was the one that you mentioned again? Expedition 33. I've gotten super interested
I love the combat that game they showed off, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Logic.
Yeah, I've gotten super interested in Unknown 9 Awakening. And now I'm forgetting because I saw it right before the show. I can't remember. I think it's Unknown 9 that is. I'll have to look it up. I think it has books and a podcast and a comic book around it. I think that's it, or maybe that was Expedition 33. I may be getting those two mixed up, but I was super interested in Unknown 9 Awakening as well. And I don't know if you guys remember that one, but that was the one where you kind of spirit walk and possess other people in proximity to you, and then gain like their abilities to get through like different parts of the map or whatever or level that you're on.
She's like an Indian protagonist, right?
Yeah.
Indian. Okay, yeah. That looked great.
Yeah. So I also watched the Future Game Show. Again, talked about Parcel Core on Parcel Corps on E2KG. But the one that really stood out here to me was Eternal Strands, which is, I can't remember where, Yellow Brick Games, founded in 2020 so this is Mike Laidlaw's studio that he set up after he left BioWare.
That's right, yeah.
This is also the development team that is 68 people. So they did have a publishing deal with 2K via Private Division, so they were one of the projects that was cut in the recent round of cost-saving measures at 2K. So they are now going to self-publish the game, is my understanding. That game is coming to PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. And this is the one that kind of evokes feelings of like Shadow of the Colossus, where you're over the course of the game, you're going to take on 9 bosses, and those bosses are these like really huge creatures that all have different like break points and weak points and stuff like that.
Logic, I don't think huge is an understatement. They are gigantic.
Yes.
I mean, like they are. I mean, you're right. Like Shadow of the Colossus, that's actually a great comparison. But I think they might be even bigger, maybe. I mean, they're pretty big, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the protagonist's name is Bryn. She has access to telekinetic powers. She can also construct bridges using ice, burn obstacles, use telekinetic skills to launch herself across great distances. She can also climb any surface found in the game's world. So there's an interview out there with I think Mike and some of the developers. Developers also came. Some of them are also expats from Ubisoft. In particular, a large number out of their Quebec studio. Game is done in Unreal Engine 5. So there is an interview out there. They talked about what a lot of their inspirations were, and obviously Shadows of the Colossus, but also Breath of the Wild was also one of their big inspirations. So that's why Bryn can climb any surface in the game world. So that'll be super interesting to see. On the Xbox Game Show, lots of stuff. South of Midnight was one. But the one that jazzes me up personally was the Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred DLC expansion coming out, just because I always get super excited about the expansion to Diablo that delivers the additional class. So it'll be interesting to see what the further on roadmap is for, because they're only adding one class in this DLC, Spiritborn. Typically, they add more to an installment of Diablo. So since this Diablo looks like its intention is to have more legs for Xbox and for Blizzard than before, they may be peanut buttering those additional classes out over further on DLC down on the roadmap. Obviously, was interested in Indiana Jones. We talked about that this weekend. Like the brief spot that we saw of Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, but of course, we don't know what the heck that game is. And I was happy to see Stalker Hearts of Chernobyl. And then I watched the PC gaming show. I can't really talk with a ton of detail about this one because I haven't really drafted up my notes, but I did like Death Sprint 66. I think you and I talked about that one a little bit over this weekend, or I talked about it on E2G. Of course, unfortunately, the day, a couple days after that showing, Sumo Digital announced that they were laying a bunch of people off. So there's that. I also saw we saw a lot of like small clips. I liked what I saw of Forgotten Seas, Renaissance Kingdom Wars, actually Star Trucker. There's actually a G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra side-scrolling beat-em-up that's also coming out. But I think the one that really stood out to me was an indie game called I Am Your Beast, which just evoked a lot of feelings to me of kind of a John Wick simulator. So, ultra-violent, low-res graphics, but you go through the world encountering people, just, taking them out in all sorts of different ways with your weapons. You can actually throw your gun at people when it runs out of ammo, which was one of the things that kind of jumped out at me. So that was one that I was interested in too. But I mean, all in all, I saw, I don't know, like 9 games I was interested in at Summer Game Fest, 8 more that I was interested in at Future Game Show, 15 that kind of caught my eye in Xbox Show, although, 5 of those are questionable and a couple of those are DLC. And then at the PC Gaming Show, there were about another 15 that caught my eye that I was interested in.
Yeah, you're right along the lines with me. Star Trucker was one of the ones I didn't get to, but yeah, that I didn't say, but yeah, that one looked interesting as well.
Yeah, so Logic, I think you had mentioned to me over the weekend, 47 games caught your eye this weekend.
Yeah, roughly? I mean, there's some variance in that. I would call it 40 to 47 because, like I said, some of those are question marks. Like I said, we don't know what Wu Chang is. There's a few on the Xbox list that I was kind of like, I don't know exactly where that's going. Or, Fallout 76 caught my eye with Skyline Valley, but again, that's DLC.
Yeah, DLC.
So, Perfect Dark is probably the biggest question mark. Just I am interested in it, but I mean, in comparison to the total number of systems that should wind up being in that game, we saw a very small snippet. I can't really tell how that like snooping and intel kind of game mechanic stuff that we saw, how largely that figures in the game. It's not unusual for us to see stuff like that, and then that wind up being like a very small part of the game, or that mechanic becoming like super repetitive. And so it's still really tough to tell, I think, where Perfect Dark is going. I'm just going to say that I don't have a huge amount of confidence in the initiative and Crystal Dynamics. In this day and age, just given where those studios are and what we've seen kind of transpire, and Crystal Dynamics being tied at the hip to Embracer Group, and the big ramp up that we saw of the initiative and the so-called quadruple A studio, and then the huge slough off of personnel, right, because of dissatisfaction and unhappiness of that working environment. As far as we could tell, this is very much a management studio that we've kind of heard about around Xbox, where there's studios with leads, but there's not like a huge development team, and the development is all like outsourced and contracted for. So this one's questionable on whether or not it's going to stick the landing for me. Did we get a release date for Perfect Dark, by the way?
No.
This is one that we got nothing, right?
No, we didn't get anything, release date or anything. I think not even. I don't even think we got anything that said like 2026. I could be wrong. I have to go back and look, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, again, my takeaway this weekend is just lots of great games coming, diverse lineup of games. And I feel like there's just something for everyone there, and there's opportunities to even reach more gamers now with the type of different games that developers are working on. Exciting time to be a gamer. I mean, again, I said this earlier, the show, this weekend to me just shat on a lot of the narratives, as you and I've talked about, Logic, the conversation that was happening the first 5 months of the year, and I'm excited.
Yeah, let's just be super clear. My guess would be if you picked out the top 5 narratives right around the gaming community for these first 6 months of the year, they have all been disproven, right? Over the course, I mean, 3-4 of them got dismantled like the week before Summer Game Fest, like all in 1 week, and the remainder should have been trampled to silence. So, you know, between the Sony strategic meeting that happened at the corporate level, the games division, the PlayStation Games Division corporate meeting that happened, again, those are investor calls, the ESA publishing its survey findings, and several other things that came out. So, I mean, again, you know, what I see is, you know, having had those narratives dismantled, you know, the people who flout them are now scurrying about, you know, trying to crop up with new ones, which is just foolish and silly and makes no sense. When we just said, like I said, when I by myself, like I have 40 something games here now that I'm interested in, that I'm going out trying to find research and find more information and track the development teams and yada yada yada. You would think something like that would be more people's focus than, you know, dreaming up ridiculous made up stuff that isn't even actual news.
Yeah, and speaking of narratives, I mean, one of the things that came out of this weekend too was this obsession over the look of characters and or sexual orientation of characters in video games. Again, here we are with people upset that this version of Joanna Dark has a square jaw. It's like, what are we doing? And it's so, you know, it's so I do genuinely think that these people really don't love video games, and that they like, look, if you need to have a sexy protagonist, there are plenty other video games that will provide that for you. You know, if you want to stare at a protagonist who has big boobs, go play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, go stare at Tifa. You know, there's games on PC that are like sex sims, you go play those. Like I just I'm seeing this more often. I even saw someone say today that if games keep on going the way they're going, that it's going to be the end of games. And this was a commentary on the look of Joanna Dark having what people are saying is a more square jaw. Look at Joanna Dark looked on the Xbox 360. And I got to be honest with you, I think you said this too, Nate, early on. Like when I was watching the Perfect Dark trailer, I wasn't looking at how she looked. Like
Literally at all.
Like to me, that's fucking loser behavior. Like if you're stopping this, oh wait, she doesn't look woman. She doesn't look like a woman. You know, it's just like
I honestly couldn't tell how she looked. All I remember, she had a helmet on in the beginning, and that she was running like the parkour mechanics looked like what was it that I say earlier?
Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, Mirror's Edge and stuff. Like I was looking at
great
that.
Game, by the way. I didn't mention that when you said it earlier.
Exactly. Yeah, Mirror's Edge, and then the technology that was being shown off. I'm trying to pick up all the traits and the little stuff going on. And is she sneaking? Is she not? Like I'm looking at gameplay mechanics, and I was like, wait, people are talking about how she looked, and not like somebody literally had to be like, oh, here, like this is how she looked, because I was like, I literally forgot.
I mean, like
that's
I was.
It's like the furthest thing from my mind as I'm watching a game reveal. Like, maybe I'm broken. I don't know, because I'm just trying to understand like how that's where you land. Like, you didn't see any of the gameplay, you didn't see any part of that interested you. You got stuck on her facial feature or her haircut or I don't know.
Yeah.
I want somebody to help me understand this.
It's just weird. It's just weird conspiracy that people are attributing it to activist hires, DEI, forced inclusion. Like, you know, it's like what world are you living in?
Dudes must have been losing their mind this weekend, because a lot of the games that I saw are definitely bringing forms of representation because I mean, what are we supposed to sit and pretend like these things like people don't exist?
That's my point.
You know, I mean, and what are people looking for? Because either Fable Girl is too ugly, Aloy is too fat, or Eve, you know, from Stellar Blade is too gorgeous. So what do people want? Because the reality is all of them exist in the real world. You know,
I think the reality.
Me living here, like, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I think the reality is people are just going to find something to complain about. Like I saw a post that said the craziest thing about the Assassin's Creed stuff, and I was like, "That's the conclusion you drew from that dope gameplay." Like, and of course it did numbers because this person is an influencer and has like 46K followers or something. And I was like, this is the discussion we having about this gameplay that just looks so fire. Like, and I was like, I'm just gonna ignore it. Just keep scrolling, act like you've never seen it, and just don't interact with it. And it was just crazy to me. I was like, none of these people are fans. Like, none of them. Like, they're literally irrelevant. Which is why they're so excited to have this weird, so offset conversation about the game. Because I'm like, everybody I know that is into AC and has been asking for Japan for all these years, like us fans really have, and all this other stuff. I don't know anybody that came away from that and was disappointed. And focusing on crazy stuff. Like I literally saw apparently everybody's a geologist and a botanist and all this other stuff now as well.
Historian.
Over the weekend.
They're all historians.
Yeah, like
don't forget FBI profiler.
Yes,
yeah, like
profilers.
Yeah.
Like people are like, oh, there's rice growing right now while the blossoms are blossoming. And I'm like, bro, what are you like? Really? Like that's what you're worried about? Oh, he didn't research that properly because I'm like, dude, it's a fantasy video game. Like, yes, those things existed and maybe they didn't coexist at that particular time, but they're not creating a National Geographic project, my guy. It's a video game. Things are happening in the world. They're putting things in the world that make it look like that time. Like, what do you like? Have y'all never gamed before? Like, it's just so weird.
I mean, to Eric's point, you go ahead, Brad. No, to Eric's point, the humanity is full of diversity. I don't understand like what bubble these people are living in, that they think that humanity only looks like them. The humanity should be reflected on what they like based on their own appearances, and you could probably get what I'm getting at here with that. You know, that not all humans are white. You know, like the United States is not all white. They're not all straight males. They're not all Christian males. People have different sexual orientations. Like, that is just the reality of the world we live in. And games are a reflection of that reality. And so when people are like, force inclusion, I'm like, how? Many of those people who are portrayed in video games are members of your own communities. Unless you live in, like, bumfuck Idaho.
True.
But, like, that's
they're even in
reality
bumfuck Idaho.
We live in.
And they put it in terms of forced inclusion, but we don't talk about the forced non-inclusion that has occurred for the past 50 years that specifically caps representation of those other peoples out of video games, like deliberately, right? Where people were told, no, you can't do that with that protagonist. No, you can't have that person be that race. No, you can't. No, we're not doing a gay character. Right. And Priscilla,
that won't sell. That won't be this. That won't be that. We've been dealing with it forever.
Right. And Priscilla really puts it well in the chat, and like she talks about, it's we got a bunch of Kardashians, and whether we're talking about this topic or the stuff we talked about earlier about the 5 narratives that have gone around, but that's what it is, right? We just have a bunch of Kardashians and a bunch of Paris Hiltons and Nicole Richies who, drum up 70% of the gaming conversation, right, every single week, which is about crap that is not about actual video games, not about stuff that actually matters, not about actual news, not about increasing people's love of video games or increasing their actual understanding of the gaming industry. It's just a bunch of superficial, right? Popularity contest, bull crap. It feels like just being in high school all over again with all of the little cliques and circles, typically oriented around plastic boxes, which is why I got so heated at the beginning of the podcast. Yeah, and we just recycle it and do it every week. That's why Innate was exasperated because like this topic is coming up again. It's like, yeah, it's like literally. What did I write the other week? That basically the gaming community is just like Hollywood. You know, we now have 7 basic plots that are behind every narrative that comes out, and we just recycle it and regurgitate it like every few weeks. I don't get it.
Yeah, the other thing too.
In the meantime,
yeah, go ahead.
And in the meantime, new games are constantly coming out, right? And we don't like. In the times, I'm sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox. The times when the conversation is the worst, because I've seen it a lot this week, a lot of posts about like, oh, the gaming discourse is so bad. The time it is the worst is when the best things in the gaming industry are going on. When a big, huge, major release drops that tons of people should be loving and enjoying, right, is when the discourse gets the worst. We literally just had a week where over 100 video games were shown. And the discourse is the absolute worst that it's been. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, BRAP.
Yeah, well,
before you go into it, I just want to say this is why it's important to surround yourself with a squad or a group of people that really appreciate gaming, the way that we talk about gaming in here, the way that me and my personal team are always talking about gaming, because the actual conversation is like the one we're having here, where we're talking about all these games we're excited for. We're talking about the games that we're actually playing, we're actually appreciating, where even things like the Metacritic score is literally irrelevant. Like, that's the kind of stuff you want to surround yourself with. If you don't got that team, get one. Like, I'm telling you.
That's a great point.
Break away from the tribalism, because I want to shout out Brian East, because he's absolutely right. People need to recognize that Twitter is not a real place. I've said this on the timeline before. Build your community. Don't build it off of this brand loyalty. Too many people call each other friends, and I rock with you and I rock with that. And it's a shaky foundation, because all it's based in is the fact that you cap and say you love the same thing that I love. And the minute you don't respond the same way, or the minute you think like you guys were saying when we started the pod, it's like you should be able to give props to a platform that you may not prefer, and not be ostracized for it, or you got to get out of the community now. And I'm like, well, I didn't build my community in the slum, so I don't mind leaving. You know, it's like, you can't come at me with that. You can't tell me you can't come back, because I don't subscribe to Twitter gaming communities, because I think they're a farce. They're not real. Like, I have real friends and everything that I talk to about games who love the same things that I love as far as gaming goes. We don't all see the same things the same way, and that's the beauty of it. I don't have to chastise you or look down on you or come at you because you don't agree. But too many people invest themselves in these fake communities of platform. They're too driven by influencers who do have a dog in the fight. They want to chum you up. They want to get you all going, because they can monetize that. Exactly. Like, I'm watching, like Elijah said, the discourse is around everything else except for games. And that's the only time gamers, if you want to talk about real gamers will come together. It doesn't matter if I agree with what you have going on. If something is bothering you, or something is like, you're not appreciating something that maybe somebody in the industry is doing, one of these corporations is doing, you should come together to fight together for that. But no, it's always, well, you're the asshole for liking, PlayStation, or you're the asshole for liking Xbox. You get what you deserve. It's like, no, that's not community.
Well, I think the important thing you pointed out is that the differences can also bring y'all together. Like, it's not about just liking the same things. You all might have loved God of War, but then this person likes this game, and now you guys are playing 2 or 3 different games, or the whole team's playing different games. You know what I mean? And you'll joke, and I always get the jab at the homies that are always on 2K and this, that, and the third, and but at the end of the day, like, you're ultimately all about playing good games, and just chopping it up with each other. And like you said, you can agree and disagree, and it's like it was like the wildest thing to me, like, because I was like, I was so like, dang, man, like, Xbox really killed it after the show. And again, I'm known as like more of a PlayStation centric person, right? And also someone who plays on PC, but like, I was like 8 out of 10. I thought it was a great show. 8 out of 10. And like, I was immediately told by someone who's like, one of the biggest Xbox fanboys I know. You're coping. 8 out of 10. That show was a 12 out of 10. Get out of here. You're coping. And I was like,
yeah, your score wasn't good enough.
Yeah, my score wasn't good enough now. And I said the show was great. I was like, what? Like,
what else am I supposed to say? Yeah, it's like, I'm not topping it off enough. I'm not fluffing it enough. Okay, my bad.
But again, they linked someone else's opinion. And I was like, that doesn't change my opinion just because that person also likes PlayStation. Like, I was like, he's free to have his opinion. And that's my boy, but we just disagree on that. And it's not a beef. Like, it's not nothing. He thought it was a 9 something, and I thought it was an 8. Cool. Let's talk about these great games, and that was it for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, when I'm reading people make these comments about the appearance of a female protagonist or her draws too manly, I'm like, you know what? I want to start seeing pictures of these individuals who are so judgmental of the looks of female protagonists in video games. I want to see what you look like. Because my guess is you probably are sitting at home in a basement, drinking Mountain Dew, eating Doritos. You probably have the Mountain Dew residue, not the Mountain Dew. You probably have the Dorito residue on your fingertips and protruding from your mouth. And you probably live at home too. So please, like all these beautiful people that are out there that are being so critical, please show your pictures and what you look like. Because I guarantee you, most of you, 99.9% of you, are the last people that should be making commentary about the appearance of anyone, much less the appearance of fictional characters in a fucking video game.
Yeah, let's make that Cheetos in that metaphor, because we're not gonna have the Dorito slander up in here tonight.
I like Doritos, but yes, let's go with Cheetos. No, we go with those big cheesy puffs. You know those big cheese puff things. That's what we're gonna go with.
Yeah, before we go on to your next topic, one thing I do want to flip back to is when Nate was talking about Legos, and there was some conversation in the chat, and I've seen conversation online about Legos. I think one thing people should understand is, because of course this is now one of the narratives, right? About Sony's going multi-platform because they're putting the game on Nintendo Switch. Again, I was flabbergasted at the number of people, particularly big influencers and big content creators with big followings, did not understand how MLB wound up getting on Xbox and wound up getting on the Switch. That's because Sony doesn't own that license. It is very much a FIFA EA type relationship. And the fact that game needed to go multi-platform was an ultimatum that was given to Sony. It was like, you need to do this, or we're going to find somebody who can, or who will. And Sony decided that it was the better part of the valor to take the bag and put those games on multiple platforms. If you notice, Sony is not the publisher of that game on Xbox. So going back to Lego, now while they will be the publisher, I think the important thing to understand, and I've posted several articles about just kind of how Lego licenses their properties and how they work with other entertainment companies, and the legacy that they've had of how they've gone about doing their video games. And so I saw somebody in the chat mention earlier that, this is the first game that is not being done by Traveler's Tales. And the way that whole thing worked is Traveler's Tales. I forget, Traveler's Tales was another studio before they switched their names, and then they were acquired by WB. And they have had an exclusive license to make Lego video games for a long period of time. I can't remember exactly when. A few years ago, they lost that exclusivity. As far as we know, there were indications that Lego was not going to go exclusive with them, that they were going to convert to pretty much, a lot of what we're seeing now with the Star Wars license, where that used to be owned exclusively by EA. But now Lucas / Disney licenses Star Wars properties out to multiple developers to allow them to make games. The same thing is going on apparently with Lego. And so the key thing I think to understand is that the discussion between Lego and Sony and as a subsidiary in Guerrilla about doing a Horizon Lego video game, that is a cross licensing deal. That is not a deal where Sony just walks into a room and dictates what they're going to do and where they're going to put that game. That is a discussion. And if you go back and you read a lot of the past literature about how Lego deals with people, typically in the past, that has been a very Lego-sided discussion, right? It's been, look, hey, here's what we can do for your IP, and if you don't want to play ball, fine. I got 50 people out sitting in the lobby waiting to ask me to license my IP. right? To go into video games, movies, whatever, right? So I think that's important part of the conversation. I've not been able to find any kind of smoking gun that said, "Hey, Lego was the one who decided to put it on Switch," so I'm not going to put that on the table, and I have not asserted that. From a business standpoint, it may very well have been Sony, and it may very well have been a joint point of agreement, and it makes sense because, hey, I'm going to take this Sony property and put it on the Nintendo Switch, where there are a lot of kids who play and a lot of kids who are going to play Lego, and then they're going to play Lego, see that Sony property, and then they're going to grow up and potentially become PlayStation consumers. So there's a lot of good business sense behind it, but I think the key thing to understand in order to not just go down the path of the narratives that people are trying to tell you is I wouldn't jump to the conclusion an assumption that it was Sony that decided that they were going multi-platform. It was very much more so a conversation between Lego and Sony about what was going to happen with the Lego license, with Lego having a very large voice in that discussion.
No, I agree, and I wanted to reiterate on that, and I agree, because that was the whole thing I was explaining to people. Sometimes I don't understand if people are living on the same planet as me. I'm like, some people seem to think like Lego is like a mom and pop shop or something. I was like, do you know who Lego is? Like, I was like, Lego, I had to research it real quick. I was like, Lego has been going since 1932 and has been and always remained a relevant product since then. I was like, Lego is in the same vein of like Disney and Sprite and Apple and all these other major companies. I was like, I don't know why people thought PlayStation walked in there, kicked the door down, and was like, this is what it is. Like, I was like, Lego's a really big boy. Like, they're just as big. And like you said, they throw their weight around just enough, and they've worked with bigger IPs, with Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all these other companies. And I was like, why does everybody think Lego is some itty bitty company? Like, they sell,
Right.
they sell Legos that cost more than a PlayStation and sell out of them in like a day.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, do y'all know who Lego is? Like, I feel like y'all just don't know. Like, go to Legoland or something for once. Like, there's one in like all over the place. Find one. Like, do some research. Lego is a monster. Like, so yeah, I don't know, that whole narrative is crazy, but yeah, 100% agreeing with the logic.
Yeah, people that live inside a box, like,
yeah,
just have like no idea,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, my nephews literally play. Yeah, exactly. They absolutely call shots. Like, my nephews that literally play Fortnite and Roblox and all this other stuff, they just got like 8 Legos for Christmas and are in their birthdays and stuff, or their birthdays. Like Lego cars and Lego Ferraris and Lego, like, what kind of deal, like, what kind of clout you gotta have to get a Ferrari, like a branded Ferrari. Like, again, this is where my knowledge of cars and stuff gets crazy. Like, bro,
real quick, do you know how much because this is the other thing people don't know, Lego has a Horizon Forbidden West tall neck. Okay, so this is before the announcement of the Horizon Lego game. Lego already had the Horizon, like, Lego toy, if you want to call it a toy.
They did.
First of all, it's sold out. Second, it retails for $90. The Lego Horizon tall neck retails for $90. It's more than the cost of the actual video game.
Yep.
They have a Christmas tree that retails for $45. A Christmas tree. They have a tuxedo cat. That retails for $100. Legos does.
That's light work when it comes to Lego, man. Let's get into some of those $500, $600, $700 sets.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Like they had the Star Destroyer that pulls apart, that has like different compartments. That one was like a couple $100. I think it was like $500.
Yeah, they've got some massive sets.
Actually, you know what? Now that we're talking about, they have. Here we go. The Lord of the Rings, Rivendell. $500. Dungeons and Dragons, Red Dragon's Tale, $360. The Avengers Tower, $500.
Yep. Again, like I said, people just don't seem to know Lego's history out here. Like, I was like, people just kept acting like Lego was nobody. Like, I was like, where have y'all been?
Yeah,
Lego's been here all my life.
People. This is the thing that amazes me. The day and age of the internet, there's so much information out there. No one uses it.
Exactly.
It's like,
it's wild. But like I told you, I didn't know how long they had been. What did I do? I researched it real quick and found out they've been going since 1932. None of us have been here before Lego. Like, they've been doing this a long time.
It's wild,
I was like,
man.
what do you know that's still been relevant since 1932? That isn't, food, for the most part.
Yeah. But Logic brings up
crazy times.
Logic brought up a great point about why Sony would do this in terms of it's an IP that
expansion
resonates with younger gamers, kids. I mean, we talked about the couch co-op. My kids love the couch co-op for Legos. And those could be potentially that could be an avenue, a way to facilitate those younger gamers to get them to eventually get them familiar with those IPs and then get them in the Xbox ecosystem. Because the one thing that we've heard, and this is the thing that kills me about this whole narrative, is that just recently when they talked about PlayStation, that the console is the core, it's the centerpiece, and they're figuring out ways to funnel more people into the console, and this is one way to do it. So, but anyhow, I don't want to beat the Legos thing with the Horizon game that's coming out. I do want to move on to the last topic here, and that is the Phil Spencer interview with IGN, actually with Ryan McCaffrey, who we've had on the show twice. You were there, E, for both those both times that we had Ryan on the show, and I think the one thing, my biggest takeaway from that show was when Ryan asked him about new hardware and stuff like that, and Phil talked about that they're still focused on future hardware with forward compatibility. But one of the things that really stood out to me, and this kind of makes me think about what we were discussing back in February during the business meeting, and how it wasn't just going to be 4 games or 5 games, and that we didn't think Phil was necessarily being that he wasn't really him saying, hey, we don't want other platform holders or owners to expect that this is going to be the case moving forward. And we're kind of like, yeah, we don't know about that. So Phil kind of changes his tune here a little bit. He says, our commitment to our customers is you're going to get the opportunity to buy or subscribe to the game. We're going to support the game on other screens, and you're going to see more of our games on more platforms. And we just see that as a benefit to the franchise that we're building.
I love that, because I read that a couple times when he said that, or watched it a couple times when he said it. Say it again. For our customers, you're going to get the opportunity.
Yeah. For our customers, you get the opportunity to buy or subscribe to the game. We're going to support the game on other screens.
Thank you, Phil.
You're going to see more.
Thank you for letting me be a consumer
on more platforms. Yeah. So this is, to me, like this, when I'm watching the interview and then I'm reading this, I'm like, this is contrary to what he said back in February
at the business event.
And this is kind of what we've been saying for the
business event that had dudes really scared before it actually happened, and they were breathing sighs of relief after everyone saying, like, it's just going to be 4. It's just going to be 4. We're good, guys. We're surviving.
Yeah.
And now the great acquiesce is happening. But continue.
Yeah, no, and the other thing that that stood out to me was he said that hold on, I got to find the quote here. Oh, he goes, and what I could say sitting here today from our decisions on cloud, on Game Pass, on console, right now we have more Xbox console users than we've ever had in the history of Xbox. So I was like, okay, that is interesting. I wonder where he's pulling that number from. My initial thought actually is he's probably combining the install bases of the Xbox One and the Xbox Series consoles. And he also addressed the layoffs. Because he was asking about the studio closures. He said, yeah, the closure of any team is hard, obviously on the individuals here. Obviously on the individuals there, hard on the team. And I try to spend all my focus, as you said. I haven't been talking publicly about this because right now is a time for us to focus on the team and the individuals. It's obviously a decision that's very hard on them, and I want to make sure through severance and other things that we're doing the right thing for the individuals on the team. It's not about my PR. It's not about Xbox PR. It's about those teams. In the end, I've said over and over, I have to run a sustainable business inside the company and grow. And that means sometimes I have to make hard decisions that frankly are not decisions I love, but decisions that somebody needs to make. We'll continue to go forward.
You said sustainable, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, a run sustainable business. Yeah. We will continue to go forward, and we will continue to invest in what we're trying to and what we're trying to go to do in Xbox and build the best business that we can. So those are some of the things that really stood out to me with this Phil Spencer interview with Ryan McCaffrey. What are your thoughts, E?
Man, I mean, we've been saying forever, dude. Like, anything Phil said, I don't expect anything different. I don't have anything against Phil Spencer. I don't, people kind of like pick everything he says apart, which we should, because Phil likes to talk. But I tell people all the time, it's like corporations are going to corporate, or whatever the word you want to call it is. They're going to do things. And Phil is like the quintessential, like, executive, and Enrique, something I've always said, and you agree, and you say, there's a level of self-preservation that these dudes are going to have, like, and Phil definitely plays this game of where it's sort of like, it's like the guy that that, he dates these girls, but he'll do whatever for them because he doesn't want them to hate him, but he knows he has to still be like the guy, even though they don't approve. He's like, but you still love me, right, babe? It's that kind of thing. And I'm just like, I don't know. It seems like from the day Phil kind of said, the one thing you always hear from dudes is Phil's a gamer. And it's like that notion has brought him so much clout and so much rope with dudes that it's amazing. I don't know. I didn't expect anything else to come out of that interview when they said Ryan was going to do it. It was going to be like a softball type interview. And yeah, he's basically walking back on everything that he was saying back in February, but I didn't expect anything less. And we all knew that. We've been talking about it. I feel like we've been made to be the crazy ones when you try to have these discussions with quote unquote Xbox, dudes or fanboys, whatever you want to call them. They act like everybody else is crazy and nobody understands what Phil is saying except for them. And I'm like, I've dealt with enough CEOs to know exactly how they talk and exactly what they do, I don't know. Sorry if I sound like I'm rambling. I'm just not surprised. Not surprised at all about what he's saying.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by the kind of the change in voice track.
It's been the roadmap for a long time.
Yeah. What about you, Nate? What did you think of the interview and some of your takeaways? Assuming you watched the interview, by the way, Nate. I'm assuming you did.
I think Nate put in the chat that he had to step away for a minute.
Oh, that's right. He did say that. Yeah. Okay, I'll go to you, Logic.
How much time do we have left in the show?
We got some time. We got a couple minutes left. We had 10 minutes.
Sit back, grab a beer.
Let's go.
And a bag of peanuts.
A beer.
I'm about to unload a big grumper. So look. Let's start with Ryan McCaffrey, IGN, in the interview itself. And I'll just say it. It should be well known that I'm not a Ryan McCaffrey fan. I've called him out for coming on Twitter and saying, playing Starfield, everything that I see tells me that 4K 30 is concern trolling. I've called him out because as a journalist, his responsibility is to represent various opinions of gaming consumers, and to keep gaming consumers informed. He's not supposed to pick sides. And for calling him out for that, I called him out for having done a better job of that in the past, and then now diving to participate in console warring on Twitter, just like a common YouTube influencer. And for that, I got blocked. So I think my opinion of him and several of the other members at IGN is that they've started participating in that, and they have lost their credibility as journalists. And there's lots of opinions running around saying that that doesn't matter anymore, and that to me personally signifies a decline in the quality and expectations that we have of ourselves as quite frankly just a civilized society, that we no longer hold the value of journalism with any regard, and don't ascribe to it any type of accountability or responsibility. So this was a softball interview. It was really no different than Tina Amini interviewing, the GLT back in February, and at that point, Tina Amini is an Xbox employee. So this was nothing but another softball setup to make Phil look good. There are, and I don't know if they've been corroborated, but there are accusations that there were prompters in the room, telling people to act excited, right, and to keep the energy up. That they were giving out prizes to incentivize people to do that. I don't know if that's true, but that was asserted by a person who was there. So just Xbox has gotten to a point with me now where I don't, I didn't really necessarily take anything that they used to say before at face value, but I am definitely more inclined now to decompose, right, what's said. Phil has mentioned in an interview late 2022, that, hey, when I say these things, there's nothing behind my back. And as I mentioned to BRAP several times before, no, Phil, there is something behind your back. There has been a wide degree of latitude exerted by him during these interviews to make claims that are not corroborated by financial statement documents that we've seen submitted to the SEC in terms of their Microsoft earnings statements, that are not corroborated by artifacts that we've seen put out in the hearings, the FTC hearings from last year. So I think, he has always played a very good game with saying things that he can say, outside of certain venues as a C-level officer for which he is, legally accountable. And playing games with, assertions that he makes that, like I said, aren't corroborated when we actually see financial data. So this interview, talking about, games going to more platforms, in contrast to what he said in February, which was that, he said specifically, so, and again, all of these, the February business update and this interview are lots of talking out of both sides of the mouth, right? Yes, in February, he said, it's just these 4 games. Please, if you're on these other platforms, don't think that you see these 4 games coming. Don't think that means everything. They're not. But then he said right after that, we're going to do these 4 games and we're going to learn. And what I've been telling people since February is that as a corporation, right, you don't use the term there's no purpose in you learning anything unless your intention is to continue executing that practice with the hope of making any tweaks and process improvement that you need to do in order to continue doing that activity as part of your going concern as a business. So there's always been an intention to put additional games on other platforms. And then what we encountered back in February when we told people that was, a lot of the resistance that, oh no, it's not everything, these games are going to stay, blah, 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 blah. And then we've seen, quite frankly, the disintegration of that community at the top levels of the Amway style pyramid that it runs in, where, people have flipped, they've departed the community, they've gone to different sides, and so on and so forth. So now here we are now with, the thing that we said was going to happen actually happening, which is that more Xbox games are going to go to other platforms. And what I've always contended, and I've always said, and somebody in the chat said it exactly the same way that I've said, I've never had a problem with any Xbox strategy. All of the strategies, at least to me, have made sense. Going cloud makes sense. Doing Game Pass makes sense for Microsoft. They can do a loss leader strategy. They have the financial basis for it in the multi-trillion-dollar company. They can take AI money and cloud money, right, and support Xbox. And they do take cloud money now and support Xbox, which is why I have a whole problem with the thing that gets thrown around about Game Pass being profitable and double-digit numbers and yada yada yada. When then we see a court artifact that says accountability margin, which means that not all costs that are being incurred by that P&L center are actually being allocated to that P&L center. So we just have a lot of peanuts under the shell, right, being moved around. We have the fruition of the thing that we said was going to happen right now actually occurring. Like I said, all these things are strategically fine for Microsoft. What's not okay, as I talked about before here with the narrative, is it's not okay for influencers to mislead people by spreading misinformation and disinformation and taking the state of Xbox and inflicting it upon the rest of the industry and say, well, everybody's doing it when everybody's not.
Yep. Right.
I've said, look, we've had the Sony corporate investment annual investment meeting. We've had the PlayStation annual investors meeting, and we've had this quote that just came out from Windelier, right, the head one of the leads at Gorilla, saying that, hey, us putting Horizon Lego on Nintendo Switch came about because it was a unique opportunity, meaning that something was different about this component of their portfolio, and that's why they did it. But what the narrative says is that this is the norm. And I'm like, no, it's not. We have 3 points of corroboration telling us that it's not. So I don't really understand, and going back to what you said, E, about, Phil being a gamer, like I don't understand why common phrases that we use in the discussion of games, which is that Nintendo gonna Nintendo, right? Which we all know what that means.
Right.
And that PlayStation's gonna make you pay, right? PlayStation puts out great stuff, but they're going to make you pay. Jim Ryan said, you're going to get Horizon Forbidden West at $60, and this is your last one. And everybody was patently clear on that message, right? But I don't know why it goes, Nintendo going to Nintendo, PlayStation's going to make you pay. Oh, but Xbox, they're the good guys.
Right.
Like, I don't get it. And this whole thing Phil said about, well, I want to give players more choice. Let's clear up, right, the bamboozle here, just so we're patently clear. No, Xbox is not giving you more choice. Phil Spencer is not giving you more choice. Microsoft took a relationship that evolved out of a natural capitalist free market dynamic, which is that Activision had a thing that had value. PlayStation had a thing that had value. PlayStation had its player base. Activision had IP. The two of them got together and made a financial arrangement that resulted in a marketing deal that allowed additional content to come to PlayStation. Nobody held Activision at gunpoint. Nobody held PlayStation at gunpoint and forced them to make that deal. That naturally evolved out of the market. What Microsoft said was, hold my beer, right? You're not going to be allowed to do that. I'm going to take my money bag and own that, and I'm going to dictate to people the choices that they're able to make. So you're not being given any more choices than you had before. You're just being given the choices that Xbox and Microsoft have now dictated to you are the way the deal is going to go down. So this altruistic thing about, Xbox is for the gamers, they're giving us free stuff. Like, again, if you don't understand how enshittification and choke point capitalism works, the only thing I can say to you is you're going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great no. Well said, Logic. I don't disagree with anything you said here. He said something about content creators, Ian. I heard you kind of like nod or say, yeah, that's true. With specifically to this idea or this, what they typically do, content creators is more platform specific content creators tend to project the troubles that Xbox onto the rest of the industry.
You could say the Xbox content or influencer content creators or whatever, they're constantly on this message of, well, this is where everybody is going. And if you think about it, we can back it up a little bit to where when Game Pass first came on the scene, what was it one in particular was saying was Game Pass is the future. Does that statement still hold true like now?
But I mean, even just real quick, you talk about Game Pass, and I'm just thinking about our time together podcasting. We were doing that show in 2017 about Game Pass, and you remember the conversation. Mm-hmm. People were, again, content creators were projecting, subscription service. Oh, this is a game changer. Sony's in trouble.
Everybody needs to go game. Everybody needs to go day one.
Yeah, this is the way the industry's going, and 7 years later, no, that's not where the industry's going. Or it's gone. And
right. And what was the thing that I would say at the time, or we would say on the pod was, there's nothing wrong with having this idea that this could be the future, but what you need to be stating and saying, and the honest statement would be, Game Pass is the future for Microsoft, not Sony, not Nintendo, unless the market shifts and dictates so, then they will act accordingly, right? That's the only thing that rings true when it comes to the consumerism things. If the market shifts in a way and the money's being made on that direction, then other companies will work to follow suit. Until that moment happens, then no, you're just putting out conjecture. Now that message is being pulled back, and now the moment that Microsoft is starting to put their product on competing platforms, it's, well, this is the future of where everything is going. And now you get like these false equivalents of, well, we're out at like these events or whatever. This is what all the developers are saying. No face, no case. Do you have tape of them all saying this, or are you just pushing secondhand information? Again, you're being misleading, and you're taking your audience and you're weaponizing.
Yeah,
you're taking your words and you're weaponizing it based off of nothing that you can prove that was actually said. You know, and to me that's wrong. That's straight up wrong. And now you have this thing going on where, cutting off your nose to spite your face. You literally have Xbox dudes right now with this notion and hope that consoles will die. And if they could die today, they'd be happy about it. Why? Because they feel it would vindicate Phil and it validates them. Because the company that they choose to rock with and they want to back and they want to support, and it doesn't matter. It's almost like in the political realm. It doesn't matter what this person says it does. You're going to rock with them no matter what they do. That's where a lot of Xbox dudes find themselves. And some dudes do the same thing. It's like they acquiesce to whatever the company is doing because they're into this tribalism and they feel that they have to support it no matter what, even at the behest of their own benefit. And that's why I sit back and laugh at so many console dudes who are like, well, we feel like second-class citizens. You were second-class citizens in 2013 in a lot of ways where Microsoft was concerned. They were talking to you, they were doing all these different things, but every move that they made, it's like they're scrambling, trying to figure out you guys acquiesced to whatever they wanted to do. When Phil got out there and said, exclusives don't move the needle, first party single player games don't really move the needle, you all jumped on that. Exclusives don't matter. Blah, 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 blah. Exclusive didn't matter until they started acquiring everybody. And like Logic said, you're removing things from the table. It's very much different than getting a couple of exclusive items for a year or two. That ultimately sucks, but it doesn't ultimately change or hurt anybody in the long run. But literally removing publishers off the table does. And I don't care. You can come back and say you're just being a fanboy, being whatever. That is on board, on paper, different. Because like Logic just said, you're not getting any more options, but now you have this company that can dictate how it's going to go. And that's something that I said, and I'll shout them both out. Fame and Rand probably remember me saying this to them on timeline. I said, well, what happens when they hold all the cards and all of a sudden Microsoft started acting differently? And the response to me was, well, what have they done lately to show you that they would do that? Because the notion is that they were the good guys. And since then, we've kind of seen what that is. They don't really talk as much anymore. They're kind of pulling back. And they're kind of setting up the table to see what's going to work and what doesn't work. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you think. They're going to do what they want to do. This is why we keep telling you guys, corporations are going to do what they do. And it's not about friends. It's not about love. And you're seeing you're seeing perfect examples of that, and that's just the reality of it. Got to get off this tribalism thing, man, and start thinking for yourself as a consumer about what works for you.
It's a great point, E.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything you and Logic were saying. I mean, obviously, like I said, I've been on a couple of times while we talked about these things while the course of actions were happening, and the warnings that specifically have either come from the show while I was on it or while I was just in the audience listening to you guys talk about the stuff, corroborating evidence, showing facts, and the amount of people that just willfully ignored those things. I can't. You were definitely one of the first people I heard, bring up the loss leader strategy thing. And when I had looked into that and exactly how that works at the time, the first time I heard you mention it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And I was like, because Microsoft as a whole is more of a company I'm even more familiar with, and all the things that they've got in trouble for in the 90s and the early 2000s and so on and so forth. And I'm like, they move in a really particular way. And a lot of people are like, no, that's not them. That's, for a while there was, that's one company is Xbox and the other, that's Microsoft. They don't, they're different, and then, Daddy's money started to show up, and then things started moving a little differently, and this, that, and the third, and like you guys said, the whole, it's only 4 games, and then here comes Doom, and then here comes, and we're gonna look at these here, and like it gradually just kind of turn up the heat, just very slightly, like the phrasing that obviously never gets old, the frog in the pot, you turn the heat up just a little bit, each time, but if you set it on high, they're gonna be like, oh my god, and that's basically what's happening, right? And you hear it in the
boiling.
Yeah, you're boiling me. Oh my god, and it's like otherwise you can play the long game, which is what I keep telling people, because this is the thing. We've been in this so long and seen how things have gone over time that we're like, you guys don't see the play here? Like, okay, so we've been playing cards way too long because we see the play here. A lot of people don't see the play here, and largely because like another factor that came into play that y'all mentioned, the influencers, the people that these people listen to, they take every word they say, they tell them Redfall looks amazing, and IGN just don't know how to play it, and all these other things that we've seen take place over time, and then the real stuff comes out, and it's way different. Before Crackdown 3 came out, buildings were falling to pieces by the power of the cloud, and that never showed up. Like all these things over time that like people were just not paying attention to, and like you said, you got to be careful because and like you said, there are some PlayStation guys that do it too. That's what I always tell people. I was like, you will never see me not be on PlayStation's head the moment they do something crazy, because they will never tell me they didn't hear about it. Like when they made this move or put this game out, and it's like, yo, that is not it. I think they're very apparent and very clear that Foam Stars was not it. They didn't make it, but they made the deal with them and Square and so on and so forth. I didn't even download it. It was on PlayStation Plus. I just to even push it further, I was like, no, like that's not it, and you're gonna know about it. And other ventures like Helldivers 2 and stuff. Now we're doing some right things and so on and so forth. But I'm like, yo, if you do not stay on a company like toe to heel, that like you said, you give them don't give them no rope. You know what I'm saying? You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Like again, all these sayings, I know it's funny because it's like, but there's a reason these sayings have never gone anywhere, right? It's because they're real. That's what happens. Right. We've seen it with cable companies. We've seen it with who are ultimately cable companies are now the ISPs, and we've seen all the way that they treat us and the way that they monopolize areas and take over spots. Like this is all the stuff we keep telling people you got to be careful. The thing you said, what happens when they hold all the cards and they start acting different? Like I said, you're not going to do it right now because you can't. You don't have like you made too many big purchases. They turned up the fire on the purchases too fast. Now, you got investors and stuff, and we keep telling people the money is going to come from somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And if he's telling them we're double digit purchasing. Yeah, if y'all are purchasing so massively, right? This is exactly why they're seeking purchasing power from other companies elsewhere in other fan bases. No, dude, like look at the two things don't make sense. Why would I need to go over there if we're good over here? We're doing more than enough over here. You're lying to me. Like, and it's like I'm laughing because like I mean, I see the explanation and the thing happening in front and the corporate double speak. And I mean, you can even tell the body language of Phil when he gets asked certain questions, when he's really excited and really happy. And other times he looks like he's kind of malfunctioning. Like there's the whole thing behind all these things. Like you said, there's just a certain way that corporations move and speak and kind of do things gradually, that a lot of people just don't see these things in the long term. And what you mentioned was my big concern. Exactly. And you mentioned my big concern, right? I even told people, I said, I felt like Bethesda was a good fit. They were having troubles, and everybody before Activision, fine, right? Fine. And I was like, but Activision was a step too far. But I said it, y'all said it, we all said it before the stuff happened. And I was like, stuff's going to have to change because that purchase and what happened and a bunch of stuff went down. Now that's going to have to be made up. People started getting cut. They were cutting, from Activision, from Microsoft themselves, like all over the place. And it was like, what do you think this is a result of? This is because of what happened, the money they need to make up immediately, and then they need to look at the books and watch the long term. And I was like, I had people where they were like, oh, Microsoft, before the Activision deal went through, oh, the ponies are scared because they're gonna rip Call of Duty right off PlayStation. I was like, y'all clearly have never looked at the money that PlayStation makes for Call of Duty. Like, I was like, I love Logic bringing up all the corroborations, as far as sales figures and stuff, because there was a sales figure that came out before that deal went through when Activision had a meeting. Xbox's sales wise, right, for one of the biggest game sales of all time, Call of Duty, their percentage counted for so small purchasing power wise that the PowerPoint or something that they had presented, Xbox was such a small percentage, it was like under 6%, that they actually didn't put them on the slide. Like, and I'm like, and y'all thought that they were going to purchase them and then rip it away because you thought that meant people were going to run out and like mass purchase Xboxes? Like, it's like, that's not how that's going to go. And Satya himself, more so, is not set up that way, right? He's the king of subscriptions. I was like, that was the whole thing where Game Pass came in and stuff. And now that you've done those two things, which I call them they open Pandora's box twice, if you can do that. Pandora's box first thing was the PC day and date, right? Oh, that's nothing. Like, that's what they said, right? And the other thing was Game Pass. And those two things coincided, and PC guys obviously get a big benefit out of that with the PC Game Pass, $10, you get all the benefits, right? And all these things over time that were happening, and they just weren't paying attention. And I'm like, now what happens when, inevitably the price hike happens again, or the inevitable starts to happen, and it's like everything was. I literally heard before the beginning of this year, and I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm pulling my logic here, my soapbox. But I heard before the beginning of this year started, ponies are gonna rue the day you ever picked on Xbox fans, and I was like, number one, like the clapback, like it's about to get started. Microsoft's about to open the wallet and it's gonna rain, and I was just laughing, and I was like, bro, I'm playing games. I don't know about you. I don't know what you're doing, but like, I was like, I'm chilling. And then the whole thing flipped when the deal finally went through. The little CEO, I can't remember her name, Asian girl that they were loving. They were calling her like
Lulu, whatever.
Lulu was part of the Queen, the Valkyries. She was gonna be our Xbox I was like, bro, y'all are crazy, bro. Do y'all not know who CEOs are? Like, I was like, that woman took the money, cut and run, and ain't mentioned the word Xbox.
They were bigging her up. The whole, Lulu's got our back. She's reporting back. Lulu has a dog in the fight, you idiots.
Yeah.
Lulu, they get broken, and Lulu bounced on y'all at Christmas.
She bounced, gone. I ain't heard from her since.
Lulu did not say one word to Xbox people after the day after the acquisition closed.
Exactly.
She woke up and said, "Good morning, gamers," and she didn't say a word to those guys after that.
Not until she dipped around Christmas. She was like, "Hey, I'm leaving Activision. I'm done." She was like, "I'm out."
She was gone.
That's exactly what happened. She got the bag.
So
she opened up the Swiss bank accounts and got out of there.
So I'm going to take a few seconds just to address Shadow 2200 Strong. And don't worry, guys. I know people have complained when I go in on people. That's not my intention. I just want to point out a point of differentiation, because this is a thing that always gets conflated. So he asked, however, since Xbox has the best subscription service, in gaming, it's bad. So I want to go back to reiterate what I said. I'm not going to speak for everybody on the panel. Everybody on the panel can speak for themselves. And I understand that maybe things we say on this show get conflated with things other people say on other shows. But I just want to go back and reiterate it, that I said I have never had a problem with an Xbox strategy. Game Pass made sense for Xbox. It makes sense for Xbox. You have the lowest amount of market share. You were losing the last generation. It was part of a strategy to coil up and engender gamer loyalty and interest to stick with Xbox while they were in the throes of prepping to launch the next console. Game Pass as an Xbox strategy for a corporation the size of Microsoft makes absolute sense. I love Amazon Prime. I don't believe in my heart of hearts, I don't know for absolute certain, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that Amazon Prime in and of itself is profitable. I think if you isolate to the P&L center of Amazon Prime, it is probably losing money, and it definitely, unquestionably started that way. We have Amazon statements that say that it was a loss leader strategy for them to capture market share so that they could swerve customers away from Walmart and other places like that. And they probably lose money with a lot of the things that they bundle in it, right? Any individual service in there, right? Amazon Prime Video, probably not profitable in and of itself if you just separated it. But it makes sense for Amazon. It allows them to capture market share. And quite frankly, if Xbox had not launched Game Pass, I don't know that they would still be in the fight today. Strategically makes great sense. And so this is my point, Shadow Strong. You're saying, who cares? It works for me. After I play a game, I rarely go back. That's great. And now I'll go back to, and there are two different gaming conversations that are going on. If you are isolating to what your thoughts are as a gamer and you're only concerned about yourself, that's a great conversation to have. That's not the conversation we have here. The conversation we have here talks about the market in total and talks about the wider landscape of gaming as a business. And so, yeah, maybe for you, Game Pass is great. But then the other problem is then when we have that conversation where I say, but Game Pass isn't great for me. It's not moving the needle. It doesn't provide me consumer satisfaction. Then we get the same reaction, right? We get a lot of somehow attempting to disprove why my opinion on the service, because now we're talking about a consumer opinion, is like wrong or out on Planet 9 or something, which I don't understand. But I just go back to, like, please, you're incorrect if you are asserting that what we're saying, right, is that, at least what I'm saying, that Game Pass is bad, that it's a bad strategy, right? No, what we're saying is that Game Pass is a thing that probably does a thing for Xbox. What we're saying is bad and wrong and misleading and misinformation and disinformation is that Xbox content creators take that and run with, okay, so it's good. It should be good for everyone, and everybody should do the same thing. Everybody should be doing subscriptions. Everybody should be sending their games to multi-platform. AAA is bad. Exclusives are bad. Dirty Sony, dirty Nintendo make things bad for Xbox. No, how about Xbox makes things bad for Xbox? How about Xbox underperforms, and that's why they don't have large market share? That's our point, is that there's a business that's performing, and it actually has quantifiable, objective, evidentiary data, which substantiates how it's doing in the market, and that is different than what content creators are telling you and influencers are creating who aren't corroborating that with actual data. Yes, I know you can still buy your game on Xbox. I'm very aware of that. Microsoft has dictated to you that you have that choice. They dictated to you that you can either give them $70 to play Call of Duty, or you can give them $17 a month to play Call of Duty. That's the action that they took.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let me grab this super chat before I wrap up this last super chat here, before I wrap up the show. We have Mega Cloud 47 with the New Zealand dollar, $3.49 super chat. Says Game Pass has failed. I in my opinion, I don't think it's failed. But I do think it's hit a little bit of it's hit some stagnation in terms of growth. But yeah. So thank you for that super chat. But yeah, I want to thank everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate the time. And if you haven't done so, please hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you are alerted when we go live. Actually, Spectrum actually subscribed to the show this evening. So Spectrum, thank you for the subscription. I really appreciate support. But again, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Also want to give a big shout out to Detective Seeds, who joined us as a guest earlier this evening. So thank you again, Seeds, for joining us. And want to give proper outros to the panel here. Want to give a big shout out and thank you to Eric Jackson. Man, always a pleasure having you on. Hey, man, it's an open door policy here, man. Anytime you want to hop on BRAP, man, feel free to hop on. You are BRAP alone.
Well, thank you, good sir. Yeah, I'm glad I was able to finally make it. I know it's been a couple of crazy weeks. We've been trying to get coordinated for a while, but I'm glad I was able to finally make it on. Always good to chop up with you guys. It's been a while since I've been on, so appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know where they can find you.
I'm just on Twitter, man, and sometimes I question that move, but I'm still there. But we might all be leaving soon, man, with lights being hidden and the porn being rampant.
Oh yeah,
Elon ain't slick. Elon ain't slick, man. We know what's up.
We know what Elon's doing. Yeah, we know what he's doing. But no, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for hanging out with us this evening, man. Really is always a pleasure. Nate, I also want to give you a big thank you to Nate as well for joining us. Nate, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know they can find you.
Again, man, it was fun. Again, always talking with the panel. Eric, Game, and you as well. Just like I said, just had a lot of fun talking with people who actually care about games and care about the hobby at an industry level as well as, the consumer level, which are both important if we want a gaming industry to appreciate in the future. We got to stay on top of these guys and be a part of these things and, really call out what's going on. But yeah, I had a blast, had a lot of fun. And also shout out to your new mod, Priscilla, whose birthday on the East Coast is about to happen in about 15 minutes. So happy birthday to my girlfriend, Priscilla, who is going to get a fresh baked cake in the morning.
Happy birthday. Can she hear us?
Yeah, she can hear us. Yeah, she's still here.
Tell her, I don't know if she can hear us. Happy birthday, Priscilla. Hope you have a great birthday.
Yeah, she'll have a lot of fun. She'll all the coffee, snacks, and sweets she wants. And, she's already shopping on Best Buy to tell me what she wants. So I guess she'll figure that out at some point. But yeah, otherwise, man, you can find me on Twitter at @TheRealInnate. Again, always gaming, playing games, looking forward to games, and hoping to support this industry for a long time, so long as I live, and hopefully we're all playing games, into the retirement home, and it just does nothing but get better from here.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. And last but not least, I want to thank Game Logic. Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know that they can find you.
Yeah, you can catch me Sunday evenings on the Enough to Keep Going weekly games video podcast. So over on the E3KG Network podcasting channel, like I said, 8:45 p.m.-ish Eastern time on Sunday nights.
Awesome. And again, thank you everyone in the live chat for joining us. May do a BRAP rant tomorrow. So give me a follow on X, Twitter, BRAP_podcast. That's where I post all the updated show information when I'm going live. And also talk about video games and other topics there as well, like sports and more sports. And anyhow, but yeah, great show,
Talking
gentlemen.
about how these Mavericks about to get swept.
Yeah, Mavericks are about to get swept. I think the Celtics are about to win the championship. But great show again, gentlemen. Thank you so much, everyone, in the live chat. And we will see you again. May do a BRAP rant later tomorrow. So may see you tomorrow. I'll actually be on Crossfire tomorrow night with Detective Seeds, and that's on Mooch's channel. It goes live at 7 p.m. But again, I may do a BRAP rant tomorrow at some point in the afternoon. So give me a follow again at BRAP_podcast on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called these days. But until then, we will catch you next time. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the support as always. We'll catch you next time.